accentuate my gray hair right there that needs to be dyed really well.
And that's
Yeah, it doesn't have to be up my nose. Okay. And then I will do, we have a clip. You're in charge of making sure my paints aren't falling off. Say that before they start recording. Well, I'll put that in my pocket. Then want to clip on. Okay. They are terribly difficult to wrangle.
Yeah, that's like herding cats. No, I did. I did some sewage first.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, you too.
One thing I've noticed with Matrix is that the CMA is extremely large. Is that something I did wrong? Or can you address
CMA is large in what? To what?
megabytes?
It has a lot of pages.
Yeah, when it has all the pages.
You can pull out all the pages that you don't want.
Yeah.
But there isn't any way to change the PDF output.
Okay.
Unless you have some sort of PDF program that can reduce the file size. Simeon? Simeon, can you hear me? Yes. All right. Can everybody hear me now? Sorry. So somebody decided that this should be recorded, so y'all really have to be good now. And so do I guess. Thank you. That will help my straining voice will be happy with the microphone anyway. All right. Have I performed all my tests? Am I good? Am I good? Okay. Thank you. So I feel like I've said this 52 times. Does anybody need the Keller Williams sign-in with matrix written in marker? Does anybody need the HAR sheet? KW and HAR. And I have 3 total, and I've seen 2. So if anyone else has that other HAR sheet, make sure that comes forward for me. All right, so let's take a break. No, I'm just kidding. It's the longest 25 minutes of my life. All right. So on the home screen of Matrix, we're seeing some of these widgets and wizards. Yes? Yes. So I'm not going to do a lot with many of these to begin with. I'm going to start off with the Market Watch specifically. Does anybody in here use the hot sheet reports in Tempo? So this will be something similar, Robert. Okay. At least he acknowledged. Okay. So the idea behind the Market Watch wizard is to, as the name insinuates, help you kind of keep an eye on a market. You can put in very specific criteria and narrow that down and focus on exactly perfectly what's relevant to you. So I'm just going to kind of run through how to configure that first, and then we're going to get into more of the meat and potatoes of Matrix. So if you're not seeing Market Watch, you may need to scroll up or down to locate it. And again, you can click and hold and drag and drop. I just happen to have mine front and center, so it's easier to teach with. It's like the hot sheets, very similar, yes. You got it. So initially, if you'll notice, mine is saying all properties in the last 24 hours, so rentals, townhome, high-rise, every type of listing mixed together. In the last 24 hours, there have been 1,068 new listings added to the MLS. Yay! There have been 132 that came back on the market, 845 whose price went down, 100 whose price went up. So you get the idea there, right? Again, it's kind of nice to know those numbers, but that's not all that relevant to your real actual life if you're looking at the entire MLS system, right? So down toward the bottom, again, where mine says all properties, you can switch to the different types of properties, single family, townhome, high rise. So whatever it is you would like to focus most on, you can have a set of criteria for each of those individual property types. So you could have a set of criteria that's specific to your single family type properties, and then another set of criteria related to what types of townhomes you're interested in keeping an eye on, and that type of thing. And then over here where it says 24 hour, You have the option to switch to today, which would be since midnight last night or midnight this morning, however you want to word that, and just see what's most currently occurred. And then 3 days back and 7 days back are your other options as well. This is just for this widget, so you're not limited to that time frame or just this small amount of criteria that we're about to go to when you're doing a regular property search. This is just to keep that quick view widget up to date on your home screen. Okay? Sure. You can. You can. So if you click Customize down there, again, I'm going to leave it at all properties in 24-hour, and then click Customize just below 24-hour. It. You may have no internet connection, because that's all you would have to do is switch from single family to the other. So in this particular case, refresh your page, see if that'll help it out, since y'all's internet is perhaps going up and down. But you were doing it correctly just by choosing a different property type from the drop down. It would typically just give you the new numbers. So once we've customized, again, I'm in the all property type, so my screen may look different than yours if you chose single family or townhome or some other thing. But on the upper right corner, one of the things to start with, learning curve wise, it's different than Tempo, different than Fusion. Is anybody new and not used Tempo or Fusion really? So this is exclusive to Matrix and not new to you, so that's good. I think unlearning Tempo, if you've been doing it like 20 plus years, right? That's harder to me than learning Matrix, because I've been doing that one in my sleep for, decades. So if you've been using Fusion since 2009 or something like that, it's going to be a learning curve for you as well. All right, so if you hover in the little box like I'm doing there, the price in the top right corner, it gives you a hint as to how to use the box. Not hard at all, just not what you're used to doing. So in the price, if you wanted to look for $350,000, there is a check mark right there. Can y'all see that 000 in the very top right? The thousands place is already presumed for you, or already enabled, so to speak, okay? So if you were to just type 350 in the box, you're looking at 350,000. But you're limiting it to exactly perfectly 350,000. You want to do a 350 plus to go from 350,000 and above. 350 minus goes 350 and below. 350-450 would have you look in that price range, or would have the system look in that price range. Okay, so again, not difficult, just not at all what you do in Tempo or Fusion, right? So if you wanted to focus on a price range in that little widget, you can configure that. If you want a bedroom count, bathroom count, square footage, year built, all of those things where we're putting numbers, you're going to need to use the plus and the minus and the dash between two numbers each time you're in one of those fields. Again, if you don't put a plus or a minus, it limits it to exactly what you typed. So on year built, if you put 2001, you're just only looking for homes built in 2001. Okay, make sense? All good? All right. And then our question over here was, can you search by zip code? So there it is, a little bit further down in the center of the page. All your geographical stuff is there. So MLS area number, subdivision name, zip code, city, street even. You can get as specific as individual street addresses. So again, we can make this as specific or as general as we want, so that every time we open Matrix, it's going to update those counts and keep that as my focus on that little widget. Yes, ma'am. It didn't have an option of seeing the map. Is that what you said? In Tempo and Fusion, on the area section, there's a little link to a map. Matrix has the map in a different spot. I'll show you where you just go to the map section, but there isn't a quick link like that from this particular page. Okay. All right, so let's put in some information. I'm going to just use MLS area numbers 23 and 24. That's somewhat closest to here, just to get us rolling. Yes, sir.
Question. For the search fields, if you want to include a phrase but not like, so for example, like a legal description, you want it to run a search text afterwards, like the percentage sign and tempo, is there a similar command?
Similar command would be the asterisk. Yes. That's technically advanced, so I'll talk about that later. But he likes to be advanced right off. No, I'm complimenting you. 23, 24 is how I typed it. You could also hold down the control key if you want to select multiple. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. If you use the plus and the minus, I'm not understanding your question completely. You can use the plus and the minus, and you can use the asterisk instead of a percent. The following along with part of your question is confusing me. So the exclamation point would exclude a word. The asterisk is all-inclusive. If I don't know if a word is one word or two, I can put an asterisk between the two words, and it will get whatever starts with what I type first, and then whatever's after the asterisk. Those are the only two. Plus and minus, again, goes back to our pricing and numbers. Exclamation point excludes. And again, once we get to that, we'll talk about it and use it a little bit more. But let's say I don't want to live on Elm Street. Too scary. Who wants to live on Elm Street? I could do exclamation point Elm. So it's looking in areas 23 and 24, but it will not look for anything on Elm Street.
And you have to put it before.
You put it before. And you have to put it before each individual. So if I also want to exclude Maple, I'd have to also put exclamation point Maple.
But the asterisk you have to put before as well.
Asterisk can go at the beginning, the middle, or the end.
Okay.
All inclusive.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And thank you for asking your questions. Okay? All right, so looking at just areas 23 and 24, single family homes, townhomes, high rise, again, are over here if you want to select different property types to narrow. Otherwise, it's looking at all of those. And then we'll just look 450 plus. There ought to be plenty that's more than $450,000 in the Memorial area. All right, so again, if you wanted to, you could keep drilling down and getting more and more specific. In the very bottom left corner, it says additional fields, add, tiny little letters. I call it hiding in plain sight down there in the bottom left. You could add any number of fields that you might want to as well. So if there isn't something on that main screen by default that you want to search by, you could probably add the field for that in search. So if you wanted to look for only homes zoned to a certain school, or built by a certain builder, or that has a certain key map number, or whatever it is, you could usually just add the field and be able to search by that. Yes, ma'am.
Can you do lot for lot value only?
Yes, the lot value only isn't there. That field isn't there by default, but it's one you can add. And then search by it. Okay. Yes. So you can do separated with commas, or again, if you hold your control key down, you can select more than one and click them from the list. Here's a little tiny learning curve as well. Can y'all hear me clicking and trying to make it let go of that one? Doesn't let go of it unless you hold down control. So again, not hard, just different, right? So you hold control while you're clicking to select multiple, or you have to hold control that one last time and make it let go of that last one while you click the last. Okay. Or worst case scenario, you just close matrix and start over, right? All right, so once you have something in there, again, I'm keeping it super simple. I'm going to do 450 plus in those two MLS areas and then click save. And so now back at my home page on that widget, I have 10 new listings in the last 24 hours, 1 back on the market, 11 price decreases, and so forth. right? If you switch that to today, since midnight last night, a little bit different numbers, right? Only 3 have happened today, 3 new listings out of the 10. All right. And again, I could go into single family, townhome, high rise, and have different sets of criteria for each of those different property types and focus on as little or as much as I might want to. Also, I can never use this widget at all if I don't want to. I don't have to. It's just an idea for keeping that kind of quick eye on things as soon as you open Matrix. Yes, ma'am?
On my screen, the property type, I don't have the single family or whatsoever.
When you went into customize, you likely are in a different property. I was in all properties. You're probably in an individual property type. I'm a little rounder than this aisle is wide, so I can't get there. Glad that's on recording. Are you on the home page with the wizard? So mine says all properties in the lower left corner. Does yours say something other than all properties? Right here? Ma'am? Down in the bottom left corner, are you with me? The bottom left corner, do you see where it says all properties? Right here? What does yours say right there? What does yours say right there? All righty. So that's the only widget that I was going to really talk about this morning. We'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the others. There's nothing in those until you do an action later on that fills that with data. So we'll come back to my carts and favorites and all of those as we use those a little bit more. In the upper left corner, we have a little news and alert section. When you first logged in, you may have gotten the little pop-ups about some updates that were done, some minor tweaks. That's the same thing. So if you close the little pop-up, you could just open it up there in the top left anytime that you would want to do that. And then on your external links, there are a few quick links to your data input sheets for getting new listings into the system and so forth. If you're used to the sidebar in Tempo or the resources widget in Fusion, it's the same thing in that external links widget. Okay. All right, so now moving up to the top of the screen. I'm on Home, the Home tab there at the top, and I'm just going to move over one to My Matrix. In the My Matrix section, what do y'all think lives in that section? Stuff for you pertaining to Matrix, right? My Matrix. So on there you have your contacts. If you had people, prospects or contacts in Tempo and Fusion, they have copied those for you. We did a sweep late January, early February, somewhere in there. So any people that were already saved to Tempo or Fusion are copied into Matrix for you, as well as your saved searches. We did not turn on auto notifications in Matrix, but we copied the people and the searches so that both pieces are there should you want to turn on those notifications. And we'll talk about how to do that at the end of the class. The latter part of the class is when we talk about saved searches and notifications. Yes, ma'am? So we'll do another sweep in October. So if you've added any new people since we did the copying for you in January, February, you can either just wait till October and or you would manually need to add them to Matrix. Okay. All right, so I'm going to click on Settings in that My Matrix menu. Tiny bit of quick housekeeping first, and then we'll jump into the real property search. So about 2/3 of the way down on that My Matrix menu is Settings. And then once you're in there, you're going to click My Information in the top right corner. And this, I hope, is the least hard part of the day.
I'm just going to let everybody know that we are having network problems with the Wi-Fi, just that we're working on it.
Okay.
In case people want to know.
So y'all are having issues with your network, the internet, and they are working on it. And they will make sure it is resolved as quickly as they can. So on this page, what's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email? So hopefully this stuff, again, is not hard. This is what was in our HR member database. So whatever we have on file for you, we pass through to the Matrix database. So if your phone number, for instance, isn't correct, see, most of them have little check boxes to the far right side, so you can check and override information that may be incorrect. Some of the things you cannot change. You can't change your broker information. So if you don't work here anymore and it says you do, then you should visit with someone about that. Fill in the blanks, make any changes, and then be sure to click Save in the lower left corner. What is on this tab is going to feed through to the next few tabs that we're going to set up. So it's important that you correct something here if you need to make a correction. Yes, ma'am. Can you not check the box to the side of it? There's no box. So you can contact our HAR membership department for that. Used to be able to change that one. My matrix, and then settings, and then my information at the very top. Okay. So once you're ready to move on, like I said, be sure to click Save. And then we're going to go to the next tab across the top right here, header and footer. What do y'all think is in that section? Something to do with headers and footers, right? And a header is a thing at the top and a footer is a thing at the bottom, right? So I happen to have chosen this beach scene. Love y'all, but anytime I can, I'm leaving and going to the beach. With these sign-in sheets, I inherited a residential contract checklist. So if someone's missing that from the book, be sure you pick that up before you go today. All right. So on the header footer tab, right here where it says select a different image, you can click there. They have 20-ish something in their list to choose from. You may have automatically landed on this page, and or once you click on that select an image, here is their default set of images to choose from. Again, quite a few. The very last few are just plain colors with no picture really to them, just this kind of blue and green wave. So if you're not happy with any of those images, that might work. Also, you have the option to upload your own banner. So if you have something branded with Keller Williams or your team name or yourself or whatever you want, you can upload that. And it says right there it has to be 1600 by 120. And this banner or header image will go at the top of everything you email from Matrix. It's on the top of the quick CMA if you utilize that. And it is an option when you are printing reports to have it included in the printable reports as well. Pardon me. Down and to the left just a touch is your personal photo. So if you want your picture of yourself to be in the system, you would need to upload that as well. So where it says use custom photo and then change photo is how you would get that into the system. Okay. And then fortunately they found a way to make my face look even rounder by putting it in that little circle up there. So you can see where that would show up if you upload your image. And each banner, the stock banners that they have to choose from, have their own kind of color scheme that go with them. So on mine, the color scheme that went with that beach is white and yellow for the emails. If you scroll down, you can choose which piece of your contact information and which color is what for different pieces of it, how transparent the background is. Can y'all barely tell there's a little blue box kind of over the banner? So that's the transparency that you're adjusting, is how dark or how transparent or not transparent that little portion is. So that's what that means. And then as you scroll down, you get into the footer portion. The footer is just a line, and then it has your contact information below. Again, you have the option to not use a footer right there. You also have the choice to not use a banner. When you are on that selection page, there's a choice to not use one at the top if you don't want. Okay. And of course, you can come back here and edit this anytime that you want. And then you would want to be sure to click Save in the bottom left corner if you make any changes to that. This tends to be the most intense portion of this class. But this represents me forever. It's not blue enough. It's a big choice. There isn't a I don't think there is a default. If there is, it's going to be the blue wave. Okay. So once you're ready, move on to the next tab, CMA cover sheet. What do you think that one is configuring? The cover sheet for the CMAs. The CMA wizard. It doesn't look exactly like this when you generate a CMA, but this is all the data that goes on that page. Again, your photo would have needed to be uploaded in the previous step in order to use it here. Those first tabs feed the rest of the tabs. And so if you didn't already, you might have to go back one step to upload your photo. It might let you do it right here. And then same type of process, just check the little box to override something if you need to. On this one, you can override your email, so that's good. So just check that little box and you can override it just in Matrix, and then if you wanted to contact HAR, they can permanently change it on your membership record. That could be related to your internet moving a little slowly. Give it a couple moments. We'll refresh and go back and check on it here in a bit. I bet it worked. If you didn't get any kind of error saying it did not, I'm sure, but feel pretty sure it worked. All right, so save obviously on that page as well. And then next one, email signature. Can you guess what you're going to do on that one? You are right. Configure your email signature. It is pretty good about keeping the formatting. If you copy and paste, that font my name is not in Matrix. I just copied it from Outlook and it pasted it and kept the formatting. So if you have, you're on your own device, so if you have Gmail or Outlook or whatever email program, if you've got it configured somewhere else and you want to just copy paste, you can. It typically also will paste photos. If you have a picture or logo or something like that as a part of your signature, paste typically works pretty well on that as well. There is a little link button right there to insert your personal photo that you already uploaded to Matrix if you wanted to go that route. Can you change which portion? I heard the question, but I didn't see who asked it. Sorry. Your email signature? Is that the question? To change your email address? Again, if you just contact the membership department, they can do that. You won't be able to manually change it, I don't think, online. If you call that main number, the 713-629-1900, it'll prompt you, press 1 for this and 2 for that. And I think it's 4 that's membership, one of those. It'll tell you. Not always, but a good year and a half or so. Right, there is a save button in the bottom left, so be sure to save. I'm sorry? Do I recommend putting your photo as part of your email signature? It's personal preference. It's kind of a nicety for someone to know what you look like, right? But also, that's a lot. If I email multiple times, that's a whole lot of me. So. All right. Yay. All right. Anybody not ready to move forward to the last tab? Everybody good? All right. So again, be sure to click save if you didn't already. And then the last tab up there is portal profile. Does anybody use the auto notification or client gateway in Tempo Infusion where it automatically emails to folks? This is their verbiage versus the Tempo or Fusion verbiage, client gateway, auto notification. In Matrix, they call it the client portal and auto email. So same process, same end result, pretty much, but a little bit different names. Yeah. Question for him? Okay. So all these different sections or pieces that can show up on that portal page. There's a section dedicated to all the properties that meet their results, because that's what's most important to them. That's where they land initially. When they first open it, they're going to see all of those listings that you've emailed to them and be able to look through and so forth. There's a tab called About Me where they can see all this information about you. Yes, ma'am? Okay. So My Matrix at the top, Settings, and then My Information in the upper left of the next page. My Matrix, and then Settings, and then My Information. Sure. So on this page, obviously where it says photo, that's your photo. Isn't that a little creepy how I peek over the edge like that? I see you. The little check mark in the circle in the top right of that menu. See, it says photo over there, little check over there. If you don't have that checked, the consumer's not seeing it. So if you wanted to say start your bio in this About Me section, or portal greeting, but you don't want to publish it yet because you're not done, just don't check the box. Or if you just simply don't have a personal promotional video. Does anybody have a personal marketing video? So you have a link to put in there, right? But maybe not everybody else. So just simply uncheck that. Then they're not seeing, here's where Marilyn could have put something but did not, right? Instead of leaving it empty, you just disable that from being seen by the consumers. I'm sorry? Did you upload it in the previous step? Yes, I did. That may be, again, yours. The refresh the page thing probably was, okay. Yeah. Okay. Slowly but surely. Again, if you didn't get an error telling you that it was not able to upload your photo, I bet it worked. It's just going to take it a while to realize it worked, basically. So do I have a sample in the portal? Greeting was her question. Sort of. It's just my bio. I copied it from my, HAR personal profile. It can be, welcome to the portal. Enjoy all the properties I found for you. It could be something like this. That's your bio. So just depending on the consumer's going to see it, and it's geared toward that person that you're working with seeing, some information about you. So it can be as short and sweet as you want, or again, a little bit more extensive like I have mine. Okay. So I know you kind of don't know what you don't know. So you haven't seen the portal page yet, so you don't really know where this is going to show up, and I'll show that to you. Little cart before horse, we're configuring it first, and then we'll look at it later and revisit this. But at this time, just click Save to save whatever you have in there, and we'll move on into searching for property. And of course, you can go back at any point and edit this stuff too. Yes, sir?
On the CMA cover sheet page,
Uh-huh. Again, it's taking it a little while to actually show up, perhaps because of the network issues. If you uploaded it in the previous step on that header footer, it would.
It used to say add photo, but now that you put one, it says change photo.
So it worked, but we just can't see it quite yet. Again, by the time we switch, like on a break or something, we can log out back in, we can refresh. We can try that later. All right. So everybody good to move on? All right. So up at the top, that was all stemmed from the My Matrix menu, and then settings. We'll come back and talk about these in a little bit more detail. But where it says auto emails and saved searches, that's where it is saving your searches. Saved searches are manual searches that you're going to run on your own that are saved, naturally. And then auto emails, what do you think the difference between a saved search and an auto email is? Auto emails are auto emailing somebody, and saved searches are just saved for you to manually run. All right? So again, we'll perform those. We'll do those together shortly. So moving across the next couple of sections at the top, do y'all use a transaction management program? Yes. I knew the answer. I was hoping someone else would play along. So thank y'all for that. Of course, you use Dotloop, right? So this is just another way to open Dotloop and jump into that program should you need to do that. And then add edit. Currently, we are still using the Tempo ad edit system. Do y'all add your own listings? Edit your prices, add your photos, all those things. So the steps that you're going to do until November, when Tempo goes away, are not changing at all. And then in November, poof, it'll change.
So we still go to the right at edit as
Mm-hmm.
in November for Matrix.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct. So once you click add edit, again, it's going to open Tempo. So this should look the same or vaguely similar at any rate. And then again, come November, like she said, and like I said, it'll switch to the different version. I have not seen the new ad edit. You can only have one version of ad edit up and running at a time, or you get corrupted listings and duplicate data and things like that. So we are going to receive some information from CoreLogics with some screenshots, some training. We'll also begin offering an ad edit class either late this year or next year on how to specifically just use the ad edit functions. So all of that will be coming soon. So you will be able to know how to do that as soon as we can make that available. And then the next tab, search, where you all probably hoped we would have been all this time, right? Here we are. We made it. So search, single family, townhome, high-rise, rental. Again, all the different property types are there. And if you'll notice off to the side of each, you have a quick and a classic version. There's no wrong answer. They just work a little differently. The classic search has more on the page by default than the quick, but they each have a little bit something different. I'm going to go into the classic first. So hover on search, hover on single family, click classic. And this is the default classic page. So again, if I kind of scroll down the page, it's a pretty good amount of stuff on that page, right? So you can already be pretty detailed in what you're searching for. Down at the very bottom, again, you're going to have additional fields that you can add. By default, the schools are not on the classic page. They are on the quick. So if you want to search by school name, you could either add the fields or open the quick search instead. So that's your classic. The quick, again, is as... Come on, mouse. Here we go. We can do it. The quick search, as the name insinuates, is designed to be a little quicker. So the things that you would search for by default or that you use the most, potentially, are all at the top of this page. The status, your price, beds, baths, stories, pool, square footage. On the classic page, private pool, for instance, is about 2/3 the way down the page and almost to the bottom. So it's on there, it's just not as prominently featured as it is on the quick search page. And again, about halfway down, we have the elementary, middle, and high school names. You can search by school name, but you would have to add them to the classic page. Yes, sir? Why are there two? I think the best answer is because. I think that's just, the classic one is the default matrix one, and then I believe HAR customized the quick. Other than that, I don't have a more official. Perfect. So good point, right? There's no MLS number field on the quick, but there is one on the classic. So again, whichever you choose, there you go, right? I could add the field to the quick search and use it there. Yes, ma'am, you had a question? Mm-hmm. Yes. And we will do that together in a bit. So her question is, the quick search is the quick search in Tempo the same as the quick search in Matrix? Not really. They're slightly different. They're very, very similar, but they're not exactly the same.
Is it more similar to the classic?
The quick, it's a little more similar to the classic. Again, both of them are uniquely matrix, so they don't look exactly, neither one looks exactly like Tempo, but the classic is the most similar to Tempo's quick search. Yes?
If you add a field, it comes in at the bottom.
Correct.
Is there a way to move it to the top?
There is not. It lives at the bottom. So pros and cons. You can add the field, and it lives there forever until you delete it, but it lives at the bottom. All right? That's in any. You can add a field. Thank you. I did hear your question. Sorry, I kind of walked a ways if I didn't. But so adding a field down in the very bottom of the screen. Remember additional fields? Mine says add remove because I already have one added, but yours would potentially just say add. If you click on that, that is every field available to add over here on the left. Whatever's on the right would be what you did add. And then again, it's going to live on that page, that search criteria page, until you take it off. So add it, and if you need to use it today, wonderful. Y'all noticed perhaps that I had builder name in there. I don't need the search by builder name unless I'm looking at new construction type properties, right? So on the searches I'm doing that wasn't relevant, I just simply wouldn't use that field, but the field would be down there and available. All right? If you try to add something that's already on the page, it tells you that. So if I try to add elementary school, for instance, it says, sorry, it's already on the page. So you just need to go back and look and try to find it. Okay. It has lot value, set for sale for lot value. That was a question that was asked earlier, right? Yep. So that's a field you can add and use when you need to. Yes, ma'am. How do you search in that price range? That would be one number dash the other. So 200 dash, I'm sorry, I've already forgotten your high end, but 400, let's say, right? So that's between 200 and 400,000. If you uncheck that little box, totally different price range, right? $200 to $400. For my tempo friends, if you would like to type all the numbers, 200, you can do that. Just uncheck the box, because if the box is checked, totally different price range, right? Also, I'm limiting it to exactly that price, right? So if there's something that's 200,001, I'm not finding it. Plus, or minus, or dash between the beginning and the end range. Okay? I don't think I'm really going to look in the $2 bazillion price range. I'll take that off. Okay, so everybody good there? Up to 2,000. Up to 200,000 would be 200 minus, and make sure that's checked, and or type out 200,000 without it checked in the minus. Okay? Yes, the plus and minus go after the numbers. All right. Also, in the bottom left corner, way down at the very bottom left, can y'all see where it says 5,000 plus matches? So your max in matrix is 5,000. I don't know what you're going to do with 5,000, but you may have them. So as you begin to type criteria, it's going to reduce that, right? The more and more specific you get, the fewer properties meet all that criteria. So I'm going to be pretty simplistic in my price range, but I think I'll do a little higher than 200. Let's do 450 to 650. And now I only have a mere 4,900 to look through. Also, if I say yes to private pool in the upper right there, that's going to make probably a pretty huge difference in my numbers, right? So as soon as I change that, see now I've gone down to 1246. So again, the more criteria you fill in, it's going to immediately update those results and continue to do so as you fill in more criteria. All right. So let's say at least 3 bedrooms. Yes, ma'am? The blank space in the status? I couldn't have planted you for better timing on your question, so thank you. So at least 3 bedrooms, at least 2 bath is what I typed. And then over on the status, active, option pending, pending continue to show, and the other pending are automatically checked for you. In Tempo Infusion, you have just the first 3 checked. So by default, you probably are already going to get a couple extra results, potentially, just by virtue of that other status being selected. The boxes, she'll be glad to know I'm finally going to answer, are for dates. You don't necessarily search by the date it went active, but you could, right? More often than not, when you're searching by dates, it's for things that are off the market, when it's sold, right? But you could put a date range in there and only find the things that went active in the last 30 days. So somewhat similar to searching by DOM, but DOM and CDOM, right, can play tricks on that and make it a little more difficult to search. So that's going to be in the active status within the last 30 days. Yes? You can. So pros and cons, you could do several different things. So the way I just typed that 0-30 went back 30 days. I can do a date range. I could do 1/1/2016 plus. So from January 1st through right now today. Or minus, goes back as far in time as it possibly can. We guarantee at least 2 years worth of sold data. We have a lot more, but we guarantee 2 years worth of sold, a year of terminated, a year of expired. And you'll notice if you check the little box by sold, it presumes to go back 180 days by default, so that's 6 months back. So CMAs, right, we're typically in the 3 to 6 month range. Excuse me. The microphone's a little heavy on this side. And again, if you hover in that field, see it's giving you some information about what it's expecting. So again, I could do the 0-180, 0-365 to go back a year, 0-60 to go back 60 days. You can also do 1/1/2016 plus or 1/1/2016-3/1/2016 to look in that 3-month range. So however you want to type that. And then last but certainly not least, the little teeny tiny gray box to the far right. It's kind of a light blue, grayish little box right there. That's a calendar. Typing dates and back 322 days and all that, that's a lot of math for me. So it's easier to just go to the calendar, click a date, and go backwards or forwards or whatever. You don't necessarily have to. So if you click on a date, if you'll notice I have these little orange arrows. Those act like the plus and the minus. Sorry, that was really loud. All right, so if I click the arrow that faces right, I'm going as far forward in time as possible. How far forward in time can something have sold? It can't go further than today, right? So even though it looks like I'm going to find all sorts of other stuff in a whole big long date range, we only have data through today, right? Right now, what's happening right now. But if you click the back arrow, then it goes back again as far in time as it could. So it acts like the minus in that case. So some people are symbol-y, calendar-y kind of folks. Some are text fields, some are typers, some are more mathematically inclined than I and can do the 0-30, 60, 90, 180 type. So whatever works. If you choose on the calendar, you can do that. You can also just click one date and then click a second date to look in that date range. Okay. So again, not hard, just different than what you might be used to in the other program. And then you click OK. And I'm a little OCD-ish, and I'll mention this probably more than once during class today. See where it says sold and then it has a date? I have more than one date. I'm searching in a range, but I can only see the one date. So you just have to trust it. When you picked more than one date on the calendar, it did it, but you can only see one at a time. That bugs some people. Takes getting used to. I may be talking about myself right now.
If you use your arrow,
Mm-hmm.
show you the extra date. No, like if you do January 2017 to May 15th,
Mm-hmm.
so click on that, and then if you click on that box, if you want it to see the range, it'll show you.
If you click on what box?
Yeah. Hit OK. Then go up.
Where I was.
And then, I know, but use your, go back to the, no, go back to that
So at,
right there.
uh-huh.
And then scroll to the right.
Like I just did. That's what I just did. That's what I just did.
Yeah, and then it'll show you if you.
Yeah, that's what I just did. That's what I was saying. So the date's in there, but you just can't see both at one time. Okay? All right. After all that, I'm not even going to use the sold status. And then kind of sort of back to her question, I could do all of that date stuff in the actives, the pendings, the sold, the term. Any of those statuses allow you to do that type of date search. Okay? So 1,233 matches, I believe, is too many to work with today. So let's narrow this down a little bit. Do y'all typically use MLS area numbers or zip codes or?
Yeah, area 23.
She's helping. We'll go with the area. What would you like to do? Area 23. Nobody objects, I don't think. So I think we're good if we use the area, right? Everybody okay with that? All right, so looking in area 23 with a pool in that price range, now I only have 18 properties. Slightly more manageable than 1,233 to look through, right? And again, I could continue down here and be more specific and look for a beach view and, you know, all that. Not a lot of beach views in Memorial, by the way. They got a lot of fancy stuff over there, but no beach yet. All right. One other thing that's on the quick search by default are the remarks keyword search fields. So if I wanted to search the realtor remarks for foreclosure as is, something like that, you can do that down there. Pardon me. All right, and then public remarks. Pros and cons, whatever word you type is what it's looking for. All right, so if you do as dash is, but they wrote it as space is, it's not going to find what you typed. It's going to find, not going to find their listing, right? That's where your asterisk might come in handy. So now if it's as is two different words or as is hyphenated, I'll find both. Okay, makes sense? All good? All right. And again, I'm not gonna, because that gives me no matches. All right, so now to go on to the results. Where do you think I would go to get to the results? Hint, hint, right? Bottom left corner or the top right corner, either one gets you to the same spot. So you just click results, and you're on what they call their agent one line, agent single line. And this should look really familiar, Tempo Infusion users. It's almost exactly the same grid, all right? Little aesthetically different, but data-wise, it's the same. Scrolling over to the very far right side, I have my DOM column. What does DOM stand for? Days on market. What does that represent? What is it counting up in days on market? How long it's had that most current MLS number. So some of them have an asterisk, right? There's a count called CDOM, cumulative days on the market. So if the property's listed, it terminates, expires, and then gets relisted. If that gap from the time it goes off and back on again isn't 6 months or more, we keep counting. So those with the little asterisk actually have been on the market longer than the 65 and 112 and 28 days. And you need to look at that CDOM number to know really, really, really how long it's been on the market. All right? So looking at those with the asterisk and then kind of tracking all the way across, on the left side of your screen, next to the MLS number, there's a little clock. Like a little good old-fashioned alarm clock. That represents the property archive report. And that will show you the status changes, price changes, days on market, cumulative days, and all that. I was teaching not too long ago, and a young lady was in my class, and she didn't recognize that because she wasn't alive. She was young enough to be my child. She grew up with only digital clocks. That's weird to me. My son barely sees a regular clock anymore. It made me feel like I was 112 all of a sudden, but tis the reality, right? So that little tiny clock, again, if you click on that, it will open your archive report. In the top right corner is the CDOM. So this home really has been sitting and not selling for 233 days, not 65. Top right corner. Cumulative days on the market. Okay, so longer the property sits on the market, who's that tend to favor? Buyers or sellers? Buyers, right? The longer it sits there, the more the seller might be willing to make some concessions in price, take a different offer, include things in the sale that they wouldn't have at the beginning of the process, right? Take my car, my whatever, just buy my house, please, right? So that CDOM is a very important number, particularly in CMAs, for instance, or again, if you're working with a buyer and wanting to make an offer, it's not a guarantee, but they may be willing to take a little bit different type of offer than they would at the beginning of the process. All right, and that opened in a new tab, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. Yes, ma'am. We just didn't select the sold status, but remember back at criteria, if you had chosen sold and put that date range, then you could see those properties. Okay, I just chose not to actually use it. Okay. So again, anywhere you're seeing the asterisk on DOM, that means there's CDOM. Moving right to left on the price. See how there's little red arrows on some of them? What do you think that means? Price went down, right? That's Fusion-esque. For those of you who use Tempo, they have an asterisk on that number as well. In Fusion, though, they use the arrows. In Matrix, they use arrows like that. If the price had gone up, you would see a green arrow pointing up to let you know they raised the price. Again, all of the price changes, status changes, agent changes are in that archive report. And the archive goes back way longer than 2 years. Anytime that address has been in the system since the 90s is going to be on that archive report, all right? And if you click on the MLS number, again, just to open it briefly, if you click on the MLS number on any of these older entries, if we still have the data, you'll be able to see the text, you know, the full report and photos and all of that if we still have it in our system. So you might be able to see what updates they've done over the past couple of years since it sold last or something like that. Yes, and I'll come right back to yours. Mm-hmm. You can still see the archive list, the data in the archive report, yes. If it's terminated, withdrawn, expired, rarely, if ever, is a property data field or is the property data purged completely. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you for waiting a moment. Uh-huh. So the closest thing, like on a map, you can see the map layers. If you right-click the map tab there in the upper right corner, you could right-click and then regular click on, open in a new tab or new window. And then be able to turn on the layer. If you'll give me just a little bit, I'll show you exactly how to do that here in a moment. You're welcome. Thank you for letting me take a minute to get to the actual physical answer. All right, so moving more across the left here, the address. If you click right on the address, you get a map. Also, the second icon from the left over here is the map. Same map, same way to, different way to access it, same information. Matrix uses Google Maps instead of Bing Maps. So the big difference there is that you have Street View. Sometimes, depending on if your internet would like to show it to you or not. Also, sometimes when I have it enlarged, it gets a little angry. There we go. So there's your Google Street View. This house apparently is listed by Don Ellis at Remax. All right, so you can drive down there and go see what the neighbors look like and all that. All right, so there's just a little tab in the upper left of the map to switch to Street View. Down below that where it says Map, that little drop-down menu lets you switch to what they call satellite view. Sometimes that's called bird's eye view. So the satellite imagery, if you double-click or use your little scrolly wheel to zoom in, you can get to that level. That's the most detailed satellite view. And you can tell they have a pool and all of that. So pretty good amount of detail on that. So that's just a matter of switching that over there. All right. So that was from that link or the second from the left. The little stack of papers next to the clock. What do you think the little stack of papers has in it? Papers, documents, right? Says that if you have a right on it. So attachments or docs. If the listing agent uploaded a seller's disclosure, something like that, they'll be there. If they did not upload those, well, they're not there. All right, so that's why some have the little icon and some do not. Yes, ma'am. Currently, yes, because we're still using the Tempo ad edit. That would potentially change in November when we switch. Okay. The next icon over, moving left again, the TX stands for tax, not taxes. So this page should look somewhat familiar if you're used to using Realist Tax. Realist Tax isn't changing. It's not tied to Tempo Infusion. So come October, November, Realist is not going to be affected by that change. Pro or a con, depending on how you look at that, right? And then the very last icon, or the first one, if you're, not awkward and go right to left like me, the first one on the left is the photo gallery. And I'm just zooming in and out, not in an effort to make you seasick, but just to kind of help you see those icons a little bit. So this is photo gallery down at the bottom in the little blue bar. If the listing agent put descriptions of their photos, they're in that little blue bar down there. Okay, if the listing agent didn't, well, then there aren't any. And if you use the little arrow within the gallery, you can scroll through. Down at the very bottom, the tiniest little squares are to show you tiny little thumbnails. That is one thing that's going to change prior to ad edits switching. Matrix can hold up to 48 photos instead of a max of 32. So in the very near future, we'll open it up where you can add those additional photos to your listing so that when we switch over fully to Matrix ad edit, they'll all already be there instead of everybody having to scramble and get those additional photos in. So keep your eye out for information about that. Coming soon. So those are your little baby thumbnails down there. The other one represents a medium-sized thumbnail, which will open in a new tab and include the verbiage under the pictures again. So the biggest one and that medium-sized one will have the little photo descriptions, the little baby thumbnails, so there's just not enough room for that, so they don't. Also, this view is one of the few that actually says the property address. On the photo gallery, see, there isn't any address. So you just kind of have to be mindful. Okay, 1111 Ivy Wall. Those are those pictures for that listing, right? Yes? Will the virtual tour still be under the document links come November? Yeah. I don't know. Haven't seen that, the new ad edit. Likely, but. Can you send a PDF of all the photos to a consumer? Was that? Mm-hmm. Yes, there's something similar to that. We're almost to the print menu. Give me 2 more seconds and I will show you that. All right. So I think maybe I have a different answer to your question now that I'm thinking that one through. So last little thing that we're going to click on is the MLS number itself. So again, I'm just going to click the first property if you're following along. And that gets us into the full view. In the upper right corner, we've added original list as well as the most current list, so you can see where it began and where it is now. If there's anything recent, i.e. the last 30 days, there's a little recent change line down there. If they were going to have an open house, it would say open house and give you the date and time of the open house. So that line has been added as well. So you can see the most recent price change occurred on the 3rd. Your archive report, see in the upper left of the photo, all of those, sorry?
Open house would show there in the green line?
If there was one, where instead of recent change or in addition to recent change, it would say open house. So here are your photo gallery, map, documents, all those same icons we just did from the grid, right? Tax, plus a few extras where it says co-op, the little red and kind of grayish one. That's the MLS co-op provided by CoreLogix, the same company that gives us Tempo Infusion and Matrix and Realist. They have, give me just a moment to finish this thought. The co-op is listings from all over the country. So any association that has chosen to share their listings with each other. Bryan College Station has its own. Galveston has its own association. So there could be a listing, y'all all, to be extra Texan, right? All y'all can list a property anywhere in the state of Texas, right? Because your license lets you. So someone from Bryan College Station, they may be a member of that association, but have a listing right next door to yours right here in Houston, right? You would not necessarily find that in Matrix unless they were also a member of HAR. You can have a secondary membership to a different board. So if you go into that co-op, that lets you look through the databases from the other MLSs. All right? So that's the benefit of co-op. Thank you for waiting, sir. Appreciate it.
Question on the agent full view.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to find a specific criteria. It's location, like a location code. For example, like 41 Houston. I couldn't find it on that view.
Back in the criteria search.
I get that. So if I was
Is that where you are?
no, actually on the results on the actual listing itself.
Okay.
So I can find it in the criteria itself, but on the actual listing, I can't find the
And that's probably true. If you haven't found it yet, it may not be on the page. I don't often use that, so let me just see.
Yeah, that's the only reason I mentioned that is because I was trying to reference a previous listing.
Yeah.
And when we were trying to add new listings, it's one of the fields. And so I didn't know where to find it.
So it's a criteria field, like you say, but it's not on the display. So I don't know if they're going to add it or not. I make notes up here while I'm teaching. I'll ask on a break and see if we can get the answer before the end of class. Location, quote unquote, technically is the city name, but there's a number associated with that location. So maybe they just thought city's already on there, so they left off location. All right. Location is something specific to the Houston region. That field is a Houston thing, so it just maybe not default by matrix. Okay, but thank you. I'll get an answer to that too. Did I have another question from somebody? I thought I saw another hand or heard something. All right. So again, we've added in that little line for original price, the recent changes. As you scroll through, the rest of it looks very much the same. They tried to lay this out almost exactly like the results from the other. Just so you know, the furniture could be included with the purchase. Also, look at those room sizes. Look how beautifully aligned they are. My OCD-ish tendencies are so happy with that. Simple minds, simple pleasures, right? And then again, a little further down, it should look somewhat familiar to you. Down in the very bottom left, see here where it says click here to view photos. The little symbol right next to it, that little square with the arrow in it, is a roll out. That's a terminology used throughout Matrix in a couple of different places. So roll out or click here shows you the thumbnails of the photos. So instead of having to scroll back up to the very top of the page, open the photo gallery up there, I can see a sneak peek down here. Okay. We also increased the font from 8-point to 10-point type. So those are your pros. What do you think the cons become at that point? So we added a couple of lines, we rearranged the room sizes. When you go to print it out, it's 2 pages. At least it looks like it's supposed to be 2 pages, right? Instead of that one stinking line on the second page. So the agent full is about 1 2/3. The client full would be about 1 1/3 or so of information. So if you've got a double-sided printer, you're still only using 1 piece of paper, but you've definitely got a good 1.5 pages plus of data when you print the full reports. Okay? And yes, really, we're going to get down to how to print.
There's not an option for 1 page, right?
There is a if you print the full, those are designed to be everything, so those 2 won't be. There is something called a customer flyer. There are a couple of different other reports that are less than 1.5 to 2 pages. Okay? And like I was saying, we will get to print very soon. Okay? I know. I'm moving at a snail's pace for some. All right. So up at the very top where you have this little drop down that says agent full, that's the view I'm in right now. Agent single line is what they call that first view, the one-liner grid. So you can either click right here in the drop down or click that link right there to get back to that single line view. Some people like the one-liner, some people like the full. Nothing wrong with either one. All right. You can select property from the grid or the single line view. Can y'all tell that it's kind of highlighting it in blue in the background? So if I click and open the full again, see how it's made the whole entire background blue? Just a quick visual to let me know you already selected this one. You can select and deselect in the top left corner, so you can select from the grid or while you're in the full view, and it'll turn it blue just to let you know for sure you did it, because it's a little big teeny tiny box, right? So as I scroll through up here, just above that a little bit, right here where it says next, I did not pick this property, but I did pick that property. I didn't pick this one, but I did pick that one. Okay? When you email and print, that blue shading does not show up, so it's just an on-screen visual for your own benefit. When you select a property, it automatically colors in that background. Okay? And bear with me just a moment. I want to kind of fast forward. So on property number 6, you have a new icon that appeared. This, I think, is the actual answer that you were wanting to your question. So that little reel of film, the good old-fashioned reel of film, ironically represents a virtual tour. So from the grid, I don't know if it has a virtual tour. When I'm in the full view, I'll see that little icon there. if it has a virtual tour or video. Okay? Correct. Once you click the MLS number, you'll see that. Okay? And if it had an open house coming up, not only would it say down in the recent area, that recent changes line, but it would also put a little picture of a door over there. I don't think I have any, but there we go. That's what that looks like. So that little door, which is naturally open, represents open house. Okay? And then also right here it says there's an open house. And it's a public open house, 2 to 4, Saturday. Okay? Yes, sir? There should be a link. I have to think about that one. I don't know that virtual tours actually go to the public site, quite frankly. I think it's just inside MLS, but I'll double check on it. To be continued. I'll answer your question when I come back from break. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said unless their agent sends them the virtual link, the public cannot see it, correct?
Like I said, let me double check on the break to be sure that I'm giving you the right answer. To be continued. Yes, sir.
There's no equivalent to like the agent full photo report where you got the details.
There is, yes. All right, so any other questions about this view or anything we've done so far?
When you say I'm trying to bottom something like cards, how do you create a card?
We'll do that together later. Mean mom. Sorry. We're not doing that right now. I always feel bad when I can't answer your question right now. All right. I'm a little afraid to send you on a break for fear you won't come back. Or that it will take an hour to get you all back in your seats and settled. All right? But it has been well over an hour since I started talking to you, and I think that we should. I am going, see, look at them all run. I'm not even done talking, and they're just up and running. So I'm going to give you a 10-minute break, and I will have a timer on the screen. And if you are not back in here, I will be forced to go through and call everyone's name and call roll and deny CE credit to anyone who's not in their seat. So please don't make me do that. So now run away. Enjoy your break.
Okay, you said there is an agent full photo report, but where is it?
It's not called that, but there is one.
I was looking under the different.
All right, are we ready? I really don't have to call everybody's name out. Are we ready? Are we so excited to begin again? Yes. Some people are more excited than others because there's some people missing. I already gave you 15. I only told you 10. Little trick I play on my son. 10 minutes before we leave. I don't really mean 15. Okay? So I was going to answer the question about the virtual tour. The gentleman who asked the question has taken an extended break, it appears. So just to verify, it does show, and I now know where because I couldn't remember exactly where the link was on the page. So on the consumer side on HAR, they will find a property by address, MLS number, whatever. When they're looking at the full detail, under the photo gallery, just down and to the left a little bit, you'll see where it says virtual tour. Okay, so it does show. They do have a link to click. I just don't like to answer questions if I'm not 100% confident of the answer. And trying to figure out how to describe that in my head and make it come out in a way that made sense just wasn't working for me. So there you go. Okay. All right. So somebody tell him later. All right, so we left off in the full view. So looking at, again, the agent single line up at the top. I think perhaps actually I had switched back to single line before we went on break. So from this page, in the upper right corner, just below the word map, can you all see where it says 25? It defaults to 25 per page when you find results. So if I had 150 results, I would have 25 per page, so I'd have several pages, right? So you need to be mindful of that. In this case, I'm fine because I don't have more than 25 results. Excuse me, you can switch to 50 or 100 so that every time you run any kind of search, it's a max of 100 per page. So if I had 150, well, then I'd only have 2 pages, but I've got more at once, all right? Kind of hiding in plain sight again, this little gear right there, that little gray settings gear lets you save that as your default. So if I switch to 50 or 100 now, it's just for right now this one session. But if I switch to 100 or 50 and then click that little gear and set it as my default, from that point forward for my life in Matrix, I get more per page. Okay? Another thing that you can do, are y'all ready to be advanced? Good thing I gave you a break, right? All right, so CDOM. We talked about CDOM earlier and opening the archive report and seeing that number and price changes and all that. So I had 3 or 4, 3 I think it is, with the asterisk. So I only needed to open 3 archive reports, but I had to open 1 archive report and then close it and then go to the other one and then close it, right? So you can imagine if I had, again, 150 results and 12 or 14 archive reports to open, that's not the most efficient use of my time perhaps, right? Couple of different things you can do. Of course, you can click the clock like we did and open each individual archive. You can also switch to history in the view menu right there, which will give you the archive reports, and you can flip through one property after the other in its archive report or history. All right. Any minute now to load. It'll be amazing. So once you get to that history report, again, you'll have page numbers. While it's thinking, I can still kind of show you where it would be. So I would have, here it is, property number 6. I started with the history report for property number 6. I can click on 10 to get to property number 10's history report. I can use the next and previous to go back and forth, all right? Method number 2. So now, last but not least, method number 3, back at the agent single line, You can add columns, you can remove columns, and you can rearrange columns. This again is kind of Fusion-esque for my Fusion users. So on the far right where I have DOM, maybe I want to add the CDOM column, and then I don't have to open the archive report. It'll just be right there. Ooh, right? So this non-technical description here, it's kind of like Excel, right? It's got a little gray box for the column header. The word, address, subdivision, lot size, that's the column header. If you put your mouse in the gray space of that column header area, you get kind of a plus-shaped cursor, right? You have to have the little plus-shaped thing, and then when you click, you're going to see the option to insert a column. It always inserts the column to the right of where you clicked. So I click subdivision, it's going to put the new column right next to subdivision. I can then drag it later if I want. I could also click right in the gray space of the DOM column if I want CDOM right next to it. It's just tiny. It's a little harder to maybe get your mouse in that little space. So whatever you want to do is fine. Okay? So once you click in the top of one column, insert another column. The column I'm looking for is CDOM, so I can scroll through. I can also start typing down here and narrow the list down. Click the column you want and hit apply, and it will put that column on your page. So now instead of opening the archive report, I can see very easily that, ouch, that property's been on the market slightly longer than the 28 days I thought. It does not. So once you add it, does it stay there, was her question. For this session, yes, but how would I save it as my default? Gray gear. So you need to also set that as your default if you'd like. All right? So add the column first, move the columns, delete columns, get it all the way you would like, and then come up to that little gray gear and use that first link to set that as your default. Okay? The little gray settings gear, that's right. So from that point forward, now my default for Matrix, any type of results, any property search I do, it'll have that column. And again, you can add several columns, you can remove several columns, you can move them. Like I said, also, if you click and hold in that gray space, that's where you can move it. So if you want the little clock over there to remind you that the clock goes with price changes and status changes, days on market, and that kind of stuff, you can do that. All right? Not typically, no. So her question was, is that something that a buyer would see if I added a column? Is that a report I can send to a client? You can do custom saved grids. Mostly is the answer to your question. You can make it work. Some of the fields are not meant to be revealed to consumers, so most of the fields would be available. Okay, can I finish my sentence? 2 seconds and I'll come right back to you. So up here at the top next to the gear where it looks like a little piece of paper with a pencil in front of it, if you click that, you can give it a new name like CDOM, new construction grid, whatever. You can create multiple custom grids. Instead of changing the whole system default, you just want another version of a grid that you might use sometimes, right? Pool or no pool. Right now I searched only by homes with a pool. So I know the answer to that question, right? But maybe I don't know the answer to that. I want to add a column, so it says yes or no to pool. Or a new construction. Again, the builder name may be important to me on that grid or whatever. So you give it a name, save a copy, and then it will automatically put the my in front of it and create those custom reports there at the top. And then when I go to print, counterintuitively, I can email a PDF of that report to a consumer. Okay? You like that? Yes, but here's the 42 steps to do it. Thank you for waiting. What was your question?
Can you do a column showing like the price dropped? Like, you know, like maybe like it says like 525, but maybe it started at 575?
You can add a column for original price.
Okay.
So you'd have both where it started and then where it is currently. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So how do you make it the setting so it stays?
So the little gray gear is a system default, permanent for all your searches. And then next to that, if you wanted several custom grids, you'd use the little piece of paper thing instead. I'm sure there's some better way to describe that than the piece of paper thing, but y'all seem to be understanding my Marylandisms. Okay? And again, you can add multiple columns, but I just am going to add the one. So you can add as many as you'd like, move them around and so forth. Also, if you click on the word, the name of the column, it does something else. It sorts by that. Your default sort order is status first and list price after that. So all your actives are grouped together, sorted low to high, and then option pendings are grouped together, sorted low to high, and so forth. If you want to click where mine is right now, if I click subdivision, it sorts them alphabetically by subdivision. Click it once, it's ascending. Click it again, it's descending. So alphabetical or reverse alphabetical. Low to high price per square foot or whatever it might be. All right? So if you click the column header, you're just sorting by the one thing. Down at the bottom in a moment, there's a way you can sort by multiple things. It's hiding from us right now, so ... to be continued. Down in the very bottom where it says actions. This is the mental aerobics portion of the class. We're going to get active. You can tell I don't get active all that often with that weird little thing. So down at the bottom under actions, email is the first, well, criteria technically is the first choice. If you want to revise your search, you hit criteria. In the top right corner, there is also a tab for criteria. There was actually someone out there blowing me kisses, in case anyone wondered why I just randomly did that. Sweet Betty was saying hello. All right, so down in the bottom where it says email, there is an email report, the end. So this is kind of the default matrix report, but don't worry, you can trick it into emailing other stuff, but this is just their default report. So again, we've copied your people, your prospects. If you click on to or CC, you'll see whoever it is that is in your address book. If you want to create a new contact, you can do that there or on the previous screen. You can also just manually type somebody's email address right here. So I can just start typing whatever their email address is, okay? You can also create a new contact right there. It defaults to blind carbon copying you on everything, so you automatically get a copy unless you uncheck the box. Also, everything that you send goes automatically into this sent items folder. Right? It's one of my favorite things. Even if I forget to check the little box to carbon copy myself, it goes to the sent items folder. I love it. All right? So I always have a copy of what I sent until I delete it from here, and I don't have to keep it in my inbox. My Gmail is going to get full eventually or whatever, right? Scrolling through, of course, your subject, the email body, the signature that we set up like 97 hours ago when we started class, right? There's also a link right there to edit your signature, so you don't have to remember to go back to my matrix settings, my information, email signature to change your phone number or whatever it might be. Okay? As soon as you click edit there, make your changes and save it, it permanently updates matrix. And then of course you'd click send. I'm going to click preview because I don't really want to send it. And so this is what the client would get. They would get a link to this map on the left, listings on the right, email banner at the top. Remember the graphic banner we also configured at the top of class? So my little beach scene. If you hover on a map pin, either as a consumer or an agent, you're going to get this little pop out for price beds bath. If you click the pin, it will scroll the property list on the right to focus on that house. So if you'll notice, it's switching from property to property so they can tell which one's which. And if you kind of hover over here on the list, it puts a little gray box around them so you can tell, oh, that's that one over there and that's that one over here. Okay? And then if a consumer clicks the address, they get into what's called the client full. So ginormous photos, remarks, room sizes, all the things they could possibly ever want to know about that house and more. And again, it's the client consumer appropriate version. So it's stripped off the listing agent, showing instructions, sold price, actual sold price, days on market, all those fields that we don't reveal to consumers by default have been removed. All right. And of course, photo gallery as well. They can scroll through the photos the way we would as well. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Can you see if your client has actually opened up this link?
Yes. Yes. And you know I'm about to say, give me a moment, and I'll show you where. But yes. Dot, dot, dot. Yes. Sorry? Could be slow. Just the map over here altogether didn't load. Try a refresh, maybe possibly. Good job finding something I've never seen it do before. Sorry, I don't know. All right, so that was email. Again, fairly self-explanatory, right, to email from there. The report does not look like the Tempo one or the Fusion one. It looks like the Matrix one, so that's why I like to show it. And then we're going to go into print. What do you think you can do in the print menu? Print. Thanks for playing along. I appreciate that. So in the print menu, again, if you'll notice at the top of mine, it has agent single line, but then it has 3 that start with my. Those are those custom grids I created, right? So I can print out a grid that includes the CDOM column. Or, like her question a moment ago, you may be able to email that as well. Depending on what fields are on there, if they're fields that aren't supposed to go to a consumer, you may not be able to do that. So that's kind of like, oh, wah, right? Oh, well, I could, no, shoot, I can't, right? So just be aware of that. Down at the bottom where it says client full, or halfway down there, client full, and then at the bottom where it says email PDF, see, I can trick it. So again, kind of counterintuitively, I've gone into the print menu to be able to email some of those printable reports, all right? So the one email format that Matrix has, we said, well, our people are going to like the way that Tempo did, the client full photo and those types of things. So there's this workaround for us, all right? So client full is text only. Question?
So when you print, does the software tell you that you've included a column that's not loud, or just tells you you can't print, go figure it out?
Print, you just have to figure it out. Email is disabled if you're not, if you have columns on there that aren't consumer appropriate. Generally speaking, showing instructions, duh, right? Y'all know that one. You shouldn't give alarm codes, gate codes, you know, all of that to a consumer. You know that very clearly. The listing agent contact information, the DOM and CDOM counts, those are the primary fields that we typically don't release to consumer. That's where you can go wrong. Again, not the end of the world if they see a DOM or CDOM number, but kind of a big deal if they're seeing showing instruction info, right? And it's not fun for you if they get the listing agent info and call that other agent instead of you. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, I just got sidetracked in the rest of my comment, but client full is the text only. And then remember us looking at rollouts. When we scrolled to the bottom, we clicked the rollout and saw the thumbnails at the bottom of the agent full, right? Remember that? So if you do client full with rollouts, you're going to get that page and a third-ish of text and then all the thumbnails of the photos. So that one is like the buyer full photo report in Tempo. Client full, print with rollouts. Okay, and I'm going to use this print to PDF function. The preview previews naturally, but it doesn't show you where the page breaks are. If you do print to PDF, you can see where it's going to cut it off. Sounds bad, but where it will transition from one page to another. Sounds better. So we'll cross our fingers that it does that somewhat quickly. Right. So here's my client full text. Again, it's suppressing listing agent, showing instructions and all that. And then it immediately goes into the thumbnails and then on into the next property and the next and the next. I think I had 4 selected or something like that.
Select all the pictures and look at them bigger?
No. It's just a PDF viewable only at this point.
But
Again, I feel mean. Not on something you're printing. Yeah, so that's why it's you can email the printable report, right? So it kind of plays with your mind. But right now it's designed to be printed, so that's the reason why. Okay? So if I do the same thing, agent full print with rollouts, then I get the agent full photo-ish report, right? Someone asked me again quite a long time ago, but here I'm finally here. Thank y'all for being patient as I get to the screen where I can answer. Customer flyer is 1 page. Pros and cons, it's 1 page, and it's not editable. So let me click on print to PDF on that. You're kind of at the mercy of the listing agent. The first 3 photos from MLS. Let me say that again. The first 3 photos from MLS. 3 photos from MLS. The benefit is in the upper right, can y'all see in the box in the top right at the bottom of that little box, it's got my name, my phone number, my email. So if I want to print this or email it or give it to a buyer, then it's got all my contact info, not the listing agent. Also, if you're holding an open house open for someone, you want the people walking through the open house perhaps to call you. This is a quick way to kind of generate that flyer. So the first 3 pictures and this little bulleted list of the features. So beds, bath, your belt, stories, the school's at zone 2, the end. So good amount of information and limited to 1 page. All right. So that's one way to get a 1-page report out of it. Anytime you see the word full, it's going to overflow to a 2nd page. The other thing that you can do, kind of back at the client full report and a couple of the other ones, you can enable this print header footer. So my little beach scene, right? I can incorporate the header at the top of the page, the footer at the bottom of the page, every page, first and last page only, whatever you want to do there. And then that just simply adds that, which then, of course, bumps down the rest of the text about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So it's going to make it fall differently on those pages, but not by much. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have used this.
Uh-huh.
And one thing I would say to other people is before you hit print, look at the preview because sometimes the header does not show up on the print.
Good to know.
It's glitched for me more than once.
I shall report that. Thank you.
It has something to do with your print menu on your operating system because some of them turn off.
It could potentially,
So you have to actually
if you have a,
printing.
yeah, so it may be in the print setup. Some printer options have print header footer as an option that may be interfering, but just double check that. Okay. First and last or every page, that's right. But she's saying sometimes when she generates the port reports, it's on the preview, but it's not printing. So it should be there, but it's not. So I'll still report it, but again, it was a good suggestion to check that printer setting as well. Yes, ma'am. With rollouts. Print with rollouts. Okay. And then the one that says print search criteria, we'll do a summary of your search criteria at the very bottom of the last page. It's just kind of a short and sweet little quick, little bitty one-liner, you know, the price and so forth. And the last one, ink saver, do not print images. What do you think that one does? 2 things, right? Saves ink, doesn't print images. Got a call from a lady who was very upset the other day. It is not printing pictures no matter what I do. Okay, let's run through what you've done. Oh, you've selected that one? Well, that's why, because it says don't print images. But I'm trying to save ink. Okay, then you won't get pictures. 12 minutes. 12 minutes I was on the phone with this lady.
Well, I have the print agent.
But in tempo, you're in Matrix. Sorry, go ahead.
The print agent header footer every page, and it's just showing 1 page on the header.
That's what she was saying. Sometimes it's glitching. We don't know why. So I'm going to report that one.
Got it.
Thank you. I've not ever had it not work for me. So coincidentally, I've been lucking out, apparently. So thank you for pointing that out. All right, so last couple things. Multi-map. What do you think that one has on it? A map of multiple things. All of the things. So it's a map with a list of the properties that you had checked. So pretty simple, but what you need, right? It's got your addresses and so forth marked on the map. If you want to print more than one thing, you use your control key. So if I want that client full with the photo, and I also want that multi-map, just hold your control key down and pick that. CMA one line is just exactly that. A one-liner quick CMA with your average list price square foot, all that stuff. Okay. So I'm going back to results. Again, down at the bottom, you could email PDF, print to PDF to preview it to preview it, and then print. I hoped I didn't need to tell you how to work the print button, but you would click print to print it. Okay? So the rest of the items on the button bar there. The CMA is next. CMA Wizard is what is behind that link. We have a whole another class, like I said earlier, on CMAs. So the CMA Price It Right class will walk you through how to use that. CMA Wizard, as well as touch on Cloud CMA. Cloud CMA is for those that are registered for the HAR Platinum package. Is anybody registered for that extra package of tools? So you would have access to Cloud. Everything else, everyone has access to. That's the only one limited to, or special for, the Platinum package registrants. The Quick CMA is what I just looked at. The CMA one line in the print menu takes you to the Quick CMA format. Okay. Backing up a little bit here, directions, driving directions. Let's say I love these properties and I'm going to show them to my client. Click directions, you get a map and the properties, and we can go to them. You are limited to 20 locations in this function. Sorry, you'll only be able to show 20 properties in one day. I bet you'll be able to manage, right? So let's say I start to make an appointment on this Lasso Lane. Hello, CSS. I'd like to show this at 10 this morning. They say, nope, sorry, no showings until 3 this afternoon. Wah, 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 right? You can use the little down arrows and up arrows on each individual property to bump it up or down a notch. You can also click and hold and grab it. So in this case, I'm just going to drag it all the way to the end. It'll be the last one in my set. If you'll notice, the path went away. The route on the map went away. If you scroll down just a touch, you'll see the directions button. So anytime you move them around, you're going to have to regenerate the directions to the new route. So now this is the way I go to get to them in that order. There's a button that says directions just below the map. Okay? It's a little off screen sometimes. You might have to scroll down to see it. Also, further over to the right, it says add start, add stop. So I can add my office address. We meet here first, and then we follow each other over to the first listing or whatever, right? If you're showing 20 properties, you may need to add a coffee in the middle or something, right? You can only have a grand total of 20 destinations. So if you add your office in as the first one, now you can only show them 19 houses. I need to stop for gas and a coffee and lunch, and then you can only show them 4 houses, right? You can narrow them down. All right. The other thing that you can do, kind of hiding in plain sight again, the little X in the upper left corner, you call to make the appointment. They say, so sorry, they're sick today, no showings. Just X. Take it out of driving directions. It's still checked back on the grid. It's just not a part of your driving directions, all right? And then if you keep scrolling, you have your turn by turn. So the grand total guesstimate of time is 23 minutes. I call this George Jetson time because it's like to each house will be 23 minutes, right? On I-10, you can barely get from one exit to the next, sometimes a day, in 23 minutes, right? So presume to add a little bit to that, but the mileage is pretty accurate. And then from the first house to the second, second to third, and like that, okay? And then at the top near directions, you may have noticed already, but you can email or print that, so you can send that directly to the consumer as well. Yes, sir?
Does the map maximize, if I just check the property, does it maximize the time? I mean, like putting it in order?
It puts it in the best time. Google presumes the best route for you. Yes. Whew. Why was that so hard for both of us to get out? Yes. You can't finish your question, and I can't finish the answer, but yes. Yes, ma'am, in the back. Can you add the address for what? I'm sorry? That was the add start right here. So if you click add start, you can type the address of wherever you want to start. You can move them also. So even though it's add start and stop, you can move it. If they've got little kids or whatever in the car, you may need to take a break in the middle, right? Little McDonald's stop or something in the middle. So you can do that. Okay. So that's directions. And there is a button right here to go back to results. I haven't mentioned it till now, but Matrix is pretty good about using the back arrow in your browser. Fusion gets really mad at you, right? Matrix doesn't get all that mad at you. So you can use the back arrow in the browser. The only caution is if you try to back up all the way to criteria, you will lose all of your criteria. So don't do that. But you can get away with the back arrow in some cases, most cases. All right, so now back at the bottom, this little blue bar is called the button bar. So finishing out the actions in the button bar down there. Stats is in the center, the next one we're going to. What do you think it does? Nobody wants to say stats? Come on. You got it. Stats on the ones that I have checked. So my average list price, price per square foot, days on market. All right? So essentially the quick CMA, but less fancy. Really simple grid with all those same numbers. All right? Last on the button bar down there is text listings, which I'm sure you can guess allows you to text your listings. Same as in Tempo. This texts to one phone number at a time, and that is all. And it comes from CoreLogix, one of those little 6-digit numbers, right? Like you get your things from Sonic or whatever. It's coming from 68902 or whatever it is, okay? So I would recommend, Mother Marilyn says, text it to yourself. And then when you get it, forward it from your phone. So you have proof you sent it. If they reply, you'll actually get it. And then you can group text from your phones also, right? So forward it to yourself. The hyperlink that's included right there is a link to all of the properties I had selected. So even though it's just one link, it's including all the ones I had checked. Yes? Text listings at the very last choice on that button bar right there. Okay? And then text it to yourself and forward it from your phone. All right? Are you all actioned out? Do you feel exhausted from all that action? All that mental aerobics? All right, so next menu over, refine. That is where sort hides. Remember earlier I mentioned that if you click the column header, you're sorting by one thing. The sort button down there lets you sort by multiple things. So if you wanted it sorted by days on market and then year built and then subdivision name and then, you can do that. Okay? Again, the default is status first and list price after that is the default sort order. Can you adjust the time in auto email in what sense? Like how often they get it?
Yesterday, I just got an email from a client saying she got a price update at 3 a.m. And she's like, are you working till 3 o'clock in the morning?
So you can pick ASAP delivery or you can pick AM or PM delivery. ASAP may go at 3 in the morning. AM, PM would not. But then I'll show that later. I'm feeling less mean as everyone goes like, but you're going to, you get it. Okay. All right, so sort, of course, is to sort. Narrow. Does anybody use narrow listings in Tempo? I'm sorry, sir, do you have a question for me? You can only text one number inside Matrix. That's why I was suggesting send it to yourself and then forward it. Group text from your phone. So does anybody narrow listings? So for those of you who have not yet, this I'm sure you can deduce means it narrows it. It reduces it to the ones you have checked. So again, if I had 150 listings, I've already painstakingly read through all of them and selected the few that I think are amazing. I don't want to have to keep scrolling through the ones that I don't want to look at, right? So if you click narrow, then it focuses just on the few you have checked. Hiding in plain sight up here, little bitty teeny tiny letters. See right there where it says original results? That will get back all of the ones that you had previously. Look over to the far right where criteria was. See it's grayed out? Little matrix idiosyncrasy there. Where you have narrowed, it presumes, well, then you must be done. You must be satisfied. So you cannot revise your criteria while you have narrowed. Nobody asked me. I think that's a little weird. All right, so you have to restore it to the original results to then be able to get back to the criteria to change your price range, square footage, stories, pool, whatever it might be, all right? So you don't always need to un-narrow, and you'll find out why I'm saying that weird word in a second. But in order to revise it further, you would have to. Also, when we go to the map features next, you can't draw on the map to revise the search either, unless you've restored it to the original results. All right. Very top left corner of the screen, there's a little link that says original results. Okay. So now down at the bottom, discard. What do you think that one does? Gets rid of the ones you checked, and then they invent a word called undiscard. Restore is a word, by the way. Just saying. So it just to keep us on our toes, instead of having that little link in the top left like we just did in the previous function, let's create a new word and make a button at the bottom. That's what they did. So there you go. So you can get them back even if you discarded them. You can undiscard them, but they're not checked. I'm being recorded. All right, so undiscard brought them all back, but nothing's checked anymore. You threw it away, you dug them out of the trash, I don't know what you want, right? So I got to go back to that exercise of checking properties now. Narrow keeps them checked when I restore the original results because I loved them, right? It's less confusing for the system apparently. And then we'll come back and talk more about associating and viewing it as contacts and stuff here in a moment. All right, so all those features are in that refine menu. Actions again is the default menu, and then you'd switch to refine when you needed to use those functions. And now really, I'm going to move on into the map. Any questions on any of these things that you haven't already asked before we move on? Any other good questions for me? Perfect. So clicking on the map tab. Sorry, question? Never mind. All right. But really, let me know if you have one. It's all good. So once you click map, here they are. They're all on the map. So my full set of results is on the map. If I had clicked narrowed, of course, it would only show me the ones that were narrowed, and then I could just look at them, and that is all. You would not have the ability to refine it by drawing. So looking at the results initially, like we did earlier for that consumer email view, hover on the pin, you get your price, bed, bath, little pop out there. If you click the pin as an agent, you get this preview, kind of a little thumbnail view of the details. So the first little thumbnail photo, the MLS number is clickable, so I can get into the agent full from there. So just kind of an overview of the info. You can also select and deselect. In the top left corner, you can check it if you need to check it. And if you'll notice, the pins are green when they're active. Oranges are pending of some sort. Reds would be sold. Purple is expired, and navy blue is terminated, I believe. The colors may be reversed. But as soon as I check it, it becomes blue and checked. So I don't see the status without clicking this, and now I can see it's active. Okay? So pros and cons. I can easily tell which ones are checked, but I don't see their status any longer. You can also hold down your control button on your keyboard while you click it to select and deselect. All right? You can also, in the upper left-ish area right there, see where it says all? You can select all or none. Page is the same as all in my case because they're all on one page. Again, if I had more than 25 results and I was looking at 25 at a time, the page function would just check the first 25 or the second 25 or whatever. Okay? In the upper right area of the map, below the A in that criteria label, there's a little thing that looks like crosshairs, compass, target. Use the word of your choice, but that little thing. And that recenters the map. Right now, it's not really going to do anything, but if I scroll way in and click that, it recenters where all of my results show up on the map. So if you slide your map over or zoom way far in or out or something like that, it'll get it back to position where everything's showing. All right? Next to that, to the left, it's a little hard to tell, but they're layers. In the olden days when I was in school, we had a thing called a transparency machine. It was a big light box, and you put clear plastic things on it, and it projected on the wall. Big high-tech stuff back in my day. But that's what that's supposed to represent, is several different layers of semi-transparent information. All right, so once you click layers, you'll see several different things. MLS area number is one I'm going to start with. This is kind of an answer to your question. All right. So looking at the map, I can kind of easily see area 23 is right here. 24 is over there. If you zoom out too far, and you lose it. But this is as far west as the MLS area coverage goes. We go pretty far north. So those are your boundaries for the primary coverage area of HAR MLS. All right? And again, sorry if I'm making you a little seasick by squishing it all around so much. All right? So some of these layers you have to be quite far in to see the detail that you want. Some you have to be far out. Some you have to be kind of somewhere in the middle. So MLS area number, again, if I was in quite far, well, I can't tell where it ends, but I can tell that I'm in area 23, right? It's pretty cool, right?
What about fault lines? Do they have fault lines?
They do not have fault lines. So flood zone. Why can't I click on flood zone? Because it says so, right? Thank you. It's hiding up there, but they tried. Big red letters at the top that says zoom in. So I cannot currently use the parcel layer or the flood layer until I zoom in further. You've got to be pretty far in. I'm going to double click the map. Again, you can use the scrolly wheel on a mouse if you've got one of those. You can double click, or you can use this little plus over there to zoom in. And once you're in far enough, you'll be able to use that flood zone layer. So pros and cons. The pro is, ooh, I can see the flood layer. Yay. What's the con? I don't see all my listings all at one time because I got to zoom in a little bit, right? So I'll have to zoom out, double click on another part of the map to zoom in and double check those. They are in the process of working to try to make this legend a little smaller because right now it's like 98% legend, right? So you got to have to kind of finagle around that a bit too. So they're going to make that a little bit smaller in the future, but you get the idea. And the map is transparent. The colors on the map are transparent, but on the legend they're not. So the best match. This is orange, right? So that goes with that. What does orange mean? Orange is good. Out of special flood hazards, or zone X. You can see the little X on there also in some places. So this data is pulling from FEMA's database. So whenever they change those flood boundaries, we should have those within a very short time of them changing them. They typically don't make any changes except for the beginning of the year. If y'all recall, last November, I think it was, they said, new changes are coming and we're going to make them become into effect January 1st. So all those things that went into effect January 1st are here on the map. Yellow is 500-year floodplain, so higher risk, but still not required to carry flood insurance. Anything in the 100-year floodway floodplains are required to carry flood insurance. Obviously, the coastal areas are the highest risk. There's more water on the coast than there is away from the coast. The client cannot see this information. For liability reasons, this is not a printable or emailable report. Since they can make up undiscard, I can make up emailable, right? So you could technically, right? We could screenshot it, something like that. Words of caution, right? You can't tell when that was that you made that. You don't want them coming back later and saying, well, she told me it would never flood. Although they can say that anyway, right? No matter how hard you try. So again, I've zoomed out a bit and I've lost some of my listings. So just, again, zoom back in and you'll get back over there. So this one in the purple, or two in the purple, I think it is technically. They are required to carry flood insurance, 100-year floodplain. So when they ask you, will it flood? What's your answer? I do not have the ability to answer that question for you. I cannot predict the future. We're trying to be nice. Well, should I get flood insurance even though I'm in the little orange area? I cannot answer that question for you. You should contact your insurance agent. Right? Just trying to keep y'all out of getting somebody mad later. Or they can get as mad as they want, and then you're not legally liable for it. Right? So, again, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. MUDs shows you, what do you think? The boundaries of the MUDs, right? So again, I'm not really where there are MUDs, so I'll slide over a little. So here are the boundaries for MUDs. Again, if you're about medium-ish zoom, you can see the name of the MUD. So here's that one, and here's that one, and all that. So MUDs are outside of the city limits by nature, so outside of where I searched for property. Key map number, bless their little heart, key map finally this year got an online database, so you can look at that. The elementary, middle school, high school boundaries, again, if you're in about that medium level, you're seeing the name of the school. If you zoom out a little more, you're just only going to see the border. So again, I can tell that these people will be zoned to that elementary school, and these would be zoned to that one, and these would be zoned to that, and so forth. Okay? So now I know the official school name, so I can go back to criteria and type Wilchester Elementary or whatever it is, and search by school to seek out homes zoned to that specific school. They're not printable. The layers aren't. None of the layers in general. Yeah. Again, because, you know, we aren't in charge of when they change them. So if I print it now and in a month when school starts, a month-ish, right, 2 months, they may change the boundaries. Not likely, but never know. So the last little really far in zoom there, parcel. Do y'all know what parcel is? I bet you do. You may not know you do, but you probably do. So you got to be pretty far in. And then the parcel or plat, can y'all see those little dark gray lines that kind of show up? The outline of the lot. That's technically what the parcel is. So that's the parcel that that guy owns, or gal, or whatever. If you click on any one of those parcels, you get this little pop-out with the tax owner name and then a link for lot dimensions. And it does the math for square footage. So length times width plus length times width equals that. Cool.
Is it for the new home? Sometimes it says for the new home, so they have recorded in the city. So is it, they will show up here?
This is pulling from the tax database. So whatever information, if they haven't updated the deed to reflect the new owner, it may not. It may not. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the county, and it depends on how quickly that information was turned into the tax office and all that stuff. So, and if you'll notice, I clicked on a property that was not one of my property results. So again, anything with the tax record will show that parcel data. And then this one, I can click and see the lot dimensions and or square footage for that lot of that listing. All right. So that's parcel. Fun with maps. Down at the bottom, I'm not going to go through a lot of these, but they're points of interest, libraries and banks and things like that. Those are Google places, Google points of interest. That's the one layer that will print for a consumer. So they can know where the fire station is. All right. All right, so now searching by map. I'm going to zoom, recenter to get all my properties back out. So let's say they gave me their little wish list, right? At least 3 bedrooms and 2 baths with a pool and a unicorn on the 3rd floor, all that stuff I searched for in the text fields earlier. But then they say, oh, and by the way, it just occurred to me to tell you, I don't want to be too close to the Beltway. Okay. So I'm searching in area 23. 23 goes all the way over there, right? So I would then have to put some other parameter to keep it on a different geographic part of 23. Am I making sense? So I'm going to draw and say, well, just don't look over there. All right? So you don't have to have the layer on. I just turned it on so y'all could see where 23 started and stopped. But you can go up here to polygon, circle, rectangle, or polygon. And then you can click and let go to change direction. So anywhere you need a point of a polygon, you could follow a street. So if you wanted to, you know, trace down Kirkwood across Memorial or Briar Forest or whatever, okay, you have no limit to the number of points on the polygon. 10 points in tempo, 30, I think, in Fusion, and unlimited number of points on your polygons in Matrix. When we were doing our Train the Trainer, he drew like a pirate. He just kept clicking as he was talking. So again, just click and let go. That starts the point. And then you just move your mouse and click and let go every time you want to change direction. And again, you can be as specific or as general as you want. just to illustrate the change of direction. Fun with maps. So when you're done, you can go back to the very first point, meet up with it again, and click to close the shape, or just double click, and it'll close off the shape for you. So now it's just only looking in the polygon I drew. But it's using all of the criteria from the first page. All right? So if I came over here and drew a square, I will never have results there because why? It's not in Area 23. Okay? So if you go back to criteria and take out the subdivision or zip or ML area number, whatever criteria you manually typed, it will then focus only on what you draw on the map. But right now it's doing both, and they are working in conjunction with each other. All right? The big red dot on the shape is your start and stop point, and also where you can then delete that shape if the mouse wants to play along. There you go. So you can get rid of it. And then the bottom choice, I think, is super cool. I'm not supposed to have opinions in front of a class, but if I did, I might think that's cool. So let's say, oh, I want all this stuff and I don't want to live here because whatever. I want to avoid my mother-in-law and she lives right here. I can exclude that. So it can be a shape in a shape, it can be a shape not in a shape, it can be any combination of circles and rectangles and polygons with a max of 20 shapes total. Okay? So I can do a bunch of circles and a bunch of rectangles, a bunch of polygons. Not that consumers are that indecisive, but you could. All right? And again, you don't need the MLS area number layer on or any of those other layers. They all can be on and or separate. All right? You can also resize the shape. So if you kind of hover on the edge of any of your shapes, you get this little grayish, bluish circle. And you just click and hold, and you can fix that. You can make it change a square, keeps its shape. In Fusion, if you're used to use, does anybody do search by map, draw the shapes in Fusion? So on the squares in Fusion, if you try to resize it, it turns it into a polygon. This one will keep it as a square or rectangle. All right? So again, just hypothetically, let's say they said something like, but I don't want to live really close to a freeway. I could just draw a square like that and exclude it. Quote, unquote, close. I just, you know, my version of close versus their version of close may be different, but okay? And the last shape is your circle. Bless you. Circle is a radius around a thing that's important to them. So that could be, you know, I want to live near the intersection of I-10 and the Beltway because I got to jump on the Beltway in the morning to get to work or whatever. It could also be a very specific address. So hypothetically, I-10 at the Beltway, click and hold, and you can draw a circle. You can see where it says I'm 1.13 miles out. So let's say they work right there and they want to be no more than 2 miles away from there. My OCD-ish tendencies are so happy right now. So everything in the circle, except for the red box that I drew that it's supposed to exclude. Also, I said in Area 23, and the circle predominantly is outside of Area 23. So I got nothing, right? So click the circle tool to pick it up, and then go to wherever it is you want on the map. You can click and let go to drop kind of a point for the center of the circle, and then just drag the mouse in any direction. Click again to be finished. All right. And again, you can change that shape later too, so if you need it bigger or smaller, you can easily do that. All right, so if I can get that to delete, that'd be great. So now that I've used one circle, it added a bonus column to the results for you. If you do more than one circle, then it can't add the column. It doesn't know which one you want to calculate it from. So even though I don't have results in the circle, if I visit the results tab, remember to get my little one-liner. See over here, it added a column called distance. So this is telling me how far away those listings are from the center of that circle. Even though they weren't in the circle, it still presumes that that circle, that center point, is relevant. And then remember, you can sort. So click the word distance, and you're sorting them by the thing closest and or furthest from the center point of that circle. It adds a column on the left. Hiding in plain sight, right? Okay? So again, if you use more than one circle, well, then you just have circles to look at. But it'll add that column for distance otherwise. All right? Bless you. All right. So last couple things on here. The little broom in the middle of those icons. See how I have a little yellow broom? That is to clean up all my shapes, to sweep them all up. So the little red dot, I can delete individual shapes one at a time. The little broom deletes every shape. So be careful if that's not what you want to do. And then also a little further over to the right there where it says jump to address. The verbiage isn't what I would have chosen. What that means is put a thing, mark a thing on the map, right? So they give me the address of their office, and then I can draw a circle to keep them within 2 miles of that exact location. Or the address of their school or their gym or mother-in-law we're going to avoid or whatever it is, right? So if we put in, let's see if it can find it. So there's where they're going to work, because who wouldn't want to work there, right? And then if we zoom out a touch, you can see I'm kind of far over there, but then you can get your little circle tool, click as close as possible to that, and keep them within a certain distance. And I could have zoomed out more, so I didn't have to do it like that, but there you go. And again, if I go back over here and take area 23 out and go back to my map, I've got results now because it's not limiting it to the other geographical area. Okay, make sense? All good? All right. And again, I can't do it right now because I don't have any selected, but as soon as I check a listing, either with holding control clicking or clicking once and checking the little box, all the menu items down in the button bar, your email, print, sort, all that stuff becomes available. So it doesn't matter if you're in this map view, the agent full view, or the single line view, you can always use those buttons at the bottom. Okie dokie. Oops. All right, so here's a little bonus content for you. Let's say they call me up and say, I just have to live inside the loop. That's most important to me. So I need to start with the map, right? So when I first open a search, it lands on this criteria page. And then I can just immediately click map and just go over there and start instead. So I don't have to fill in the price and the bedroom count and all that stuff. I can just go to the map. If you'll notice up here it says too many, can't show you, it can only show you 5,000. If you start to double click the map and zoom in, once you get close enough, you're going to start to see little circles on the map, circles and numbers. It's going to be amazing. I can't have more than 5,000 in this view, I promise. There we go. So see those little circles? There are 86 listings in that area. There are 144 there. There's 255 there, 91 there. The further in you zoom, the circles will change. The scope of your map determines how many listings are in that particular part of the map. So right now, I don't have any criteria at all except for where I'm looking on the map. So now that's going to change from 217 down to a little bit smaller. As soon as you get in far enough, you're going to see all the little pins. So these are all the actual listings in that map scope because I'm in far enough. All right? And then, of course, I don't have to do all that zooming, but I can go over here to my circle, my rectangle polygon draw, and say, you know, north of I-10, south of I-10, inside the beltway, outside the beltway, inside the loop, outside. Okay? So just so you're aware what those represent, that's it. And see that little kind of blue border around it? It doesn't correspond to anything at all. It's not like the MLS area or a neighborhood or whatever. It's just the blob that those listings happen to be in. And I'm sure Matrix might use a much more technical terminology than blob. But who knows?
see, like, it's too many, and then
Do you have criteria on the other page?
do I need to put criteria in there?
No. You shouldn't have to. Give me a moment, I'll look at it with you a little more intensely. All right. So technically, I taught you two things at once. You can start with the map, or you can start with the criteria. The other thing I kind of taught you was you can right-click and open in a new window and do a second session. Word of caution with that. If you do too many of the same kind of thing, Matrix will eventually, and we don't know when it happens, sometimes it's pretty quickly and sometimes it's a little later in the day. After you're doing it, it quits. So if I open a new single-family search, and then I right-click and open another single-family search, and I right-click and open another single-family search, eventually it's going to go, I don't know which one to pay attention to anymore. I can't single-family anymore. So if you right-click and do a different function, like townhome high-rise rental, and you have a single-family search over here and a rental search over there, or a map search over here and a criteria search over there, you can usually get away with a couple of different windows and trick it into doing several different things at one time. All right? It's not technically designed to work that way, but it does. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you go and hit number 60 on that circle part,
Mm-hmm.
then you can hit criteria and put in the 4 bedrooms, 3
Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to hit the 60 necessarily, but you can also then click criteria, put the price range, stories, pool, bedrooms, whatever, and then go back and you'll see now just the ones that have all that criteria. That's right. Okay? View. Start with map, y'all. And also up here, you can put more than one address. This little jump to address. So that's where husband's going to work. So now where's wife going to work? I'll put her address in there. Where are the kids going to school? Where's their favorite restaurant? Where's that grocery store that she just has to shop at, or, you know, whatever. You just type another one in there, hit enter on your keyboard. Now there's that one. So this was the first point I manually added. That's the second point I manually added. So point A, point B, do little circles to get a radius. Where they overlap is the magic house they can buy, and they close in 2 weeks, right? That's how it works. I couldn't hear the first part. I'm sorry. You type it instead of. So delete the one address you already had in there and type another one. Okay, and I don't know of a limit to the number of addresses you could do, but logically speaking, how many could you possibly need on there, right? 2 or 3, 4, maybe. Okay. It is. So her question is it possible to search for single family and townhome at the same time, for instance? They can't decide if they want to rent or buy, or they don't know if they want a high-rise or a townhome or a single family. So if you go into all properties, again, I'm going to do that right-click thing just so I don't lose what I'm working on. Down here a little lower, you can just use Control to select those 2 kinds or whatever it is that you want, and then it'll only focus on those 2. But it'll do both at once. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. My best guess, you would just need to revise the criteria in a way that's going to limit it. I'll be glad to look at it after class with you and see if we can figure it out. Mm-hmm. Right? You need to revise the search. Is there, what was the rest of your question? Or? Yeah, we will. Once we save them, we'll go back and we'll work with all that here very shortly. All right? So any other questions on the mapping stuff? We good? How long have I been talking to you since you came back from your break? A long time. I love that. Too long. Thank you. I appreciate that. Even if it wasn't true, I appreciate that. So I will give you another break if you will hurry your ish back, because it took y'all a long time to get back in from your 10-minute break. When I faked it and I gave you 15, there were still people who weren't back in here after 15 minutes. I'm trying not to be that teacher, but also The state requires that you be present the whole time, and I can get in trouble, and so can HAR. So mommy says, clean your room, eat your broccoli, get back here. In 12 minutes. You have a 12-minute break. Run away. But please come back quickly. And there is going to be a timer on the screen, so you will know when that 12 minutes is nearing an end. Yes. Yes.
the first step, you will come to the level 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's more confusing.
Yeah, and that's what I say. You just may have to take the class a couple of different times. You're welcome. All right. Thank y'all for being here. That's amazing. Did anyone catch on to the trick that I have now done twice in a row? You actually got a 15-minute break. And that time has passed now. The end. Break over. All right. So we have done kind of the simplest form of a search, right? We did criteria only, and then we added in some mapping stuff, and then we narrowed, and then we discarded and undiscarded, and whatever other made-up word we can think of. It was emailable, right, while we're making up words. So now, let's say I have narrowed and refined and done all of the things I could possibly do. These are perfect and wonderful and amazing for my client. I'm going to select these few just so I have something selected. Not necessary to have anything selected. Again, that's just me and my habits. I want some selected. Again, down here at the bottom, you've got a summary of your criteria. Your button bar only becomes available if you have some selected, so that's really the only reason I went ahead and checked a couple, just so that you could see that. So now I want to save these for a client. I'm going to start with carts first. Here's where I'm mean teacher again, right? The thing y'all want to know most is how to save a custom search. So I'm going to hold off on that. So mean, right? Just briefly, there's two different ways to kind of do something. In Fusion, you have My Folder. Does anybody use that little folder in the top right corner of Fusion? So this carts function in Matrix is somewhat like that folder, all right? Except you have a cart for every client that's in, or consumer that's in your contact section, all right? So if you come to the carts down at the bottom, again, you can be in the map screen. You can be on this results page with the one-liner. Doesn't matter. Carts is available at the bottom of pretty much every view in Matrix. What do you think of when you hear the term cart? Shopping cart, right? Things someone's gonna buy, probably, right? If you're anything like me, it only lives in the cart for about 4 seconds, and then I have bought it. So looking at the little drop down below the word cart, see where it says carts my cross property? Their terminology, cross property, means all kinds of properties. And it's mine, so it's just for me. So if I wanted to just set aside a couple of listings, put it in a little folder for myself, that's the one that I would use. I would just click Add To, and it would put those few that I had checked into that cart for myself. And if you'll notice, I already have 3 in my cart. So you can just keep putting stuff and putting stuff and putting stuff in the cart. It can be from all different kinds of property searches. So I could have some townhomes and some rentals and some single families, some with pools, some without, some whatever. All right? So it's just, I'm sorry? That's what yes. If you were going to add them, you would click Add To. Train of thought derailed. Have no idea what I was saying. So let's move on to clients. Down below are your people, again, in your contact section. So if they're already in your address book, they're going to have a cart. They don't know they have a cart. They don't have any idea there is a cart. They don't get alerted at all about carts. All right? Yes, I've got some amazing clients up there, right? Don't be jealous of my Shipley donut and my Snoopy dog. All right, so I'm going to find somebody who has nothing. Somebody who's somewhat entertaining also. Pardon? Yes, right? Jimmy Kimmel sounds entertaining for the day. Let's use him. All right. So I got some results. I checked a few properties. And now I'm going to click on the person from that little drop up menu. What if the person's not in my address book yet? How do I add a new contact? Right there where it says new contact. Yes. All right, so not difficult, but it is kind of hiding in plain sight. It's not exactly where you might expect it. So then, like I said earlier, if you click Add To, it puts those 6 properties in Jimmy Kimmel's cart. Again, Jimmy has no idea what I'm talking about when I talk to him about his cart. It's just for me. So where the carts live is on the home page. I'm going to do that right-click thing again. Right-click, open in a new window. So brand new day, I open Matrix. See in the top right corner of my screen, it says My Carts. So if I click on Jimmy Kimmel's name, who is at the top because it's the most recent cart I've worked with, I'll see those 6 properties. I can then email them, print them, run a CMA, do whatever I want with those 6. They live in the cart until I take them out of the cart. And it's always the latest and greatest version of the property data that's in the cart. So when I put it in there, perhaps it was active, and then a week later it's in pending. When I open his cart, I'm going to see that the property's in pending, and new photos and price changes and whatever. So every time you open the cart, you're looking at current data. Nothing can be automatically added to a cart. You have to manually add it to a cart. All right? So the Pro, I set these 6 properties aside. I got to zip out of here, go to my other appointment. Now I can come back and do his CMA or print them or email them or driving directions or whatever. The Con, I have no idea what I searched for to get those 6 properties. I did not save the criteria. I saved those listings, right? So it's literally like I printed some pieces of paper about the listings and stuck them in a folder. I don't have any way to really recreate, except for completely from scratch recreating a search to get those to print them again, right? So inside the cart, on the far left, you've got these little check boxes like we were working with before. Once you check, if you go to the cart section again, now you can remove it from the cart because you're in the cart. To the right of that little checkbox is where it says never on mine is the date and time stamp. If you had ever emailed that to Jimmy Kimmel, it would have a date and time stamp. I have never emailed any of these 6 to that client. So it says never. Okay. To the right of that, there's another thing that looks very much like, pardon me, the checkbox, but it's not. Those are notes. See the column header, the little yellow sticky note? So if you click that box, you can then write a note. Word of caution. Right now they're not, but if you email this or send this to a client, they will be able to see those notes. This stupid client's so picky. Bad note. Bad note. Don't do that. Right? And you can delete notes, but not from this page. So you have to go through 2 or 3 steps to delete a note. So again, be really mindful of what you're writing in those notes and just presume the client's reading them, okay? Wow. Carpet. Did I spell it right this time? Carpet. All right. Whew. It's the simple things that catch us sometimes, right? So now if I click Add Note in the lower left corner there, it is now attached to that property. And see how the little box over here isn't a little gray box anymore? It's a little yellow box. So you can tell there's a note on it. So that note now lives there forever, pretty much, until I manually delete it from a different section of the program. Okay? So still at this point, I've not contacted the client. The client's not aware of any of this yet. I would go back to my actions to print it, to email it, to do driving directions, CMA, whatever it was. Okay? And if you email it either automatically or manually, it puts that date and time stamp there for you. Okay? So any questions on carts? Make sense? I don't know that you'll use them all that often, but you could, right?
I deleted some from my client's cart.
Uh-huh.
It still showed up on their portal.
Portal and carts are separate. Yes. So her comment was she deleted some things out of the cart, but they were still showing up in the client portal because they're 2 different things. One's being sent by one method and the other's being stored by another. All right? So the portal, that client gateway, auto email, different terminology, right? Finally, we're there. So if you click on Save down at the bottom, just to the left of carts, Save is saving criteria. So carts sets aside specific listings. Saves the criteria that gets you the results that produce those listings, all right? So whenever you save a search and then run that search, you're seeing the latest results to that criteria. You're not necessarily going to get the exact same results every single time you run the search, right? Because MLS is constantly changing. You could have a brand new listing or something that went from active to pending or something that went terminated or whatever, right? So you're saving the 3-bedroom, 2-bath price range, you know, whatever, when you save. And down in the lower left, just down and to the left of the word save, see if I can scoot that up a little bit. Save new saved search saves the search, and that's a manual search. You would then open, click the name of the search, run the search whenever you wanted to. It's not emailing anybody. It's just saved. The one that's called a new auto email is, what do you think? Automatically emailing stuff to people. All right? So if you want to engage that automatic email to send results to your client at whatever interval you choose, that's auto email. Save search just saves the criteria for you to run it and look at it later, not sending anything to your client. Starting with saved search, what's in yellow is required. So you got to call it something. And that's it. That's your only requirement. So homes in Afton Oaks with a pool or whatever you want to call it. Okay? And then you could just save. You have some other options. You can pick a person. This, again, does not notify that client in any way, shape, or form. It's just for my benefit to associate. Why did I search for houses over there with the pool? Oh, yeah, because Jimmy Kimmel was asking me about those. All right? My buddy, right? And so I could pick him from the list if I wanted to. And then also another option is to enable or choose to put that in my favorites. So you can have an unlimited number of saved searches. You can have an unlimited number of auto email searches, but you can only have 10 favorites. Not everybody's your favorite, right? Okay? So when you click to add something as a favorite, there's a widget on the home page that has the top 10 favorites. Yes, ma'am.
If you have clicked a few of those and you go to save search, does it keep those clicked or it just keeps the criteria clicked?
Reword it to give me more information. If I click what, does it do what?
And I just happened to click 5 houses in it.
Uh-huh.
Now I wanted to save searches. That's what I
Yes. I thought that was the question you were asking, but thank you for rewording.
when I save that to my widget on the front page, is it always going to have those 5 clicks or is it going to save?
It does not. It saves the criteria, Rice Military, so it always looks for anything. Cart is the only way to save those 5, but then you don't have the criteria, so you'd have to do both pieces. Okay? Thank you again for rewording that. Like I say, I thought that's what you were asking, but I want to be real sure I was answering the right question. All right, so I don't need to do a contact if I don't want to. I don't have to make it a favorite if I don't want to. Again, just for the sake of showing, I'm a very visual person, so that's why I keep showing you this stuff. See down a little bit on my screen, it says My Favorite Searches. If I just click the name of the search, it opens it up, and then I see the results of it. If I don't save it as a favorite, where do my saved searches live? Hint, right there. My matrix, saved searches, and then I click the name of the search. So adding it as a favorite saves me a hover and a click. But I can only have 10 favorites. All right? So then, of course, you would click Save, the end. All right? I'm not actually going to save it because I have plenty of fake searches for all my fake clients. So now the other version of that. Again, I'm mean and I am seemingly mean and I make you wait till the very end of the class to do this because then it's foremost in your mind. You walk out of here with that thing that you're going to use a little more being the freshest in your mind. And you forget everything I talked about at 9 this morning, right? Not really, but. All right, so new auto email. What is in yellow is required. Therefore, I need what? A person and a name of the thing. So I've got to send it to somebody and I've got to call it something. They have it labeled as subject. So that is not only the subject of the email message they get, but it is the name of the search. All right? I, again, tend to call it something related to what I searched for. So homes with a pool, 350 to 450, 2-story, Rice Military, or whatever. Okay? So you can do whatever you want in terms of naming it something. The consumer sees the name of the search. So again, make sure it makes sense to that client. And just sticking with the example, stupid guy search is a bad name, right? For that reason. So I'll pick my person. Of course, they have to have an email address on file. So if they don't already have an email, you would need to edit that contact information first and or create a new contact. And then again, it's going to blind carbon copy you on all of the emails it sends automatically unless you uncheck the box. Subject is not only the name of the search, but the subject of their email, like I said. And then down here, this message, the portal verbiage. I don't really so much talk like this. Welcome to the portal! Exclamation point, right? Yeah, I can, but I don't often talk in exclamation points, so I might reword that. Do they care that it is called the portal? No. They care that I'm sending you stuff that meets the criteria that you wanted so we can buy you a house or find you a house, right? So welcome to the web page I've made for you. Welcome to the results. Don't use the word welcome if you don't want to. Good day. I found some things I think you'll find amazing, right? Reword it however you want. Basically, there's about 3 paragraphs of information here that kind of don't really tell them a whole lot. I created a thing, and it's an amazing thing. I think you'll love the thing. Click the link below to see the thing. Then what? All right? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty intuitive, but there's a couple little quirky things there are a couple little quirky things on that page. So when the consumer gets the email from me, it's going to have a link they click to open that web page you're creating for them. And again, we're cart before horse. We're creating it, and then we're going to go look at what it looks like. All right? So bear with me. I'm getting there. When you see a heart, what do you think of when you see a heart? Love it, right? Favorite. So they can favorite or possibility or discard properties. They click the heart to do all 3 of those. I would never think to click a heart to discard something, right? They didn't ask me, but that's how it works. So in this verbiage somewhere, I might say wherever you see that heart, that represents the 3 different categories you can choose, favorite, possibility, or discard. Also, there's a tab, kind of a different section of that web page up at the very top called favorites. But what lives in that section is the favorites, the possibilities, and the discard. So if they discard something, they can undiscard also. They can get it back, right? But it's not that intuitive when you're looking at that. You don't think that's potentially what lives there. So again, word that somehow that you explain wherever they see that heart, they're going to have 3 different choices. Wherever they see the term favorites at the top, they've got 3 different choices, and they can get back things they've deleted and uncategorize them if they need to. So once you've reworded that, this little gear, remember our little gray settings gear is set it as the default. So this is the welcome message verbiage. So reword that, save that as the default so that you don't have to recreate that wheel every time and rewrite it for every client. There is also a recurring email with different verbiage. This one to me, if I were to have an opinion, is drastically too little information. Here, it's an update. Right? It didn't really say that. I would reiterate, because it's awkward, right? Don't forget, if you click the little heart, you get to discard also, right? The other thing that it does not do by default is alert you if they do that. They can make notes. They can put properties in the categories. You can open their portal anytime you want and look at it, but by default, it doesn't alert you. So I would put in there, call me, text me, contact me directly right away if you need something. If their note is, please show me this property at noon today, I may not know that, right? I may not see that. So explain to them in that you can eventually see that stuff, but it's not by default alerting you. I'm going to show you in a minute, couple minutes, where you can change the setting. So it can text you and email you when they do that. You can even be notified every single time they open it if you want. All right, so again, reword that second kind of email, set that as the default for the recurring message, edit your signature if you need to. Down at the bottom of that is your time frame, the interval. So the default again is AM. Those go out between about 2-ish and 4-ish in the morning. That's like tempo. So those of you who are using the Client Gateway portal, quote-unquote portal in tempo, it's going out AM only. Pardon me. You can choose PM. Those start around 6 in the evening. So if you do AM and PM, they're guaranteed to likely get something twice a day. The con, what's the con? They don't get anything in between or before or after, right? So if a new listing comes on the market at 11 o'clock in the morning, well, we don't get that notification until 6 p.m. And then again, 2-ish in the morning, they'll get another batch of listing updates, all right? So above that AM, PM choice is the ASAP choice. The system will run the search for you about every 20 minutes. If it finds something new or changed, it sends an email. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So the con for her was her client was like, are you up at 3 o'clock in the morning emailing me stuff? She may have been very impressed. I don't know her feelings about that. Oh, sweetheart, go to sleep. That's so sweet of you to do that, right? That's how she reacted. All right, so pros and cons, it is what it is. If you turn on ASAP, it's just gonna send it when it can, all right? And it's new listings, price changes, and status changes. So if it goes from active to pending or pending falls out and goes back to active or whatever. And again, you are blind carbon copied on everything. So you get it at the same time your client does by default. Okay. Down at the bottom, the very last one is, the last choice you have is monthly. Once a month on the first of the month at midnight, you could get an update. Again, don't know that that's all that practical for typical client scenarios, but maybe you just want to kind of keep an eye on a market or something. And once a month to you as the client is fine or something like that. Yes. Bless you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That might also be useful if you want to keep your client up to date with what's happening in their subdivision once a month.
Correct. Yes. So the typical buyer scenario where they're looking to get a house like right now, not so much, but if they know that they're going to be transferred in 3 months, they're not that urgently looking, right? So that might work. Or again, once they've even already bought a house, they just want to know what's going on around them. That can be used for that purpose. Okay? And again, you can pick yourself as the quote-unquote client and just have it email you instead. It doesn't have to go to a consumer. Okay. And your last choice, kind of above the time, there's another choice to make that one of your top 10 favorites if you wanted. And then above that, because I like to go backwards and upside down, right? Enable concierge mode. What if you have one of those clients? I'm too important to look through those myself. Don't send me anything I don't want, right? Concierge mode. You've had that client, right? You're like, oh, I met that lady. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so if I click concierge mode, it comes straight to me only. I then get a chance to look them over, check the box by the few that I would prefer to send, and I don't have to send all. The automatic is 100% automatic. So if there's 15 new results today, they get an email with 15 listings in it, whether it is or isn't the bright open kitchen they wanted. If I want to get them first, I can look and see the picture. Oh, look, it's bright, it's open. I will forward that to them, but I will not forward this other one that has the galley kitchen. All right? So pros and cons, as I continuously say. Can y'all see up here at the very top of my screen? I don't actually know Jimmy Kimmel or Abraham Lincoln or Snoop Dogg. I don't know them. So they've not actually read my emails or anything, but I have a grand total of 31 auto emails and 810 listings that I have not looked through for those fake clients. So you'll get your notification, and if you ignore it, your client never gets anything. Okay? The kind of pro to that is you've been trapped in this class for 127 hours today, right? So you got an email this morning at 9:45. It's sitting and waiting. When you're done, when you get a break, when you can go through, take care of those, and then send that email on to the client. They don't know that you got yours at 9:45 and they got theirs at 2. They don't have any way of knowing that from Matrix. So it looks like you're taking care of and, just sending as soon as you could. The only kind of downside to that is if they're one of those consumers, right, that's on HAR.com's app and keep looking. They have nothing to do all day long but sit around and look at the property. Well, I found that myself at 10 this morning, right? You can't help that, but just kind of at least be able to interject with concierge mode. All right? So in non-concierge, I would just hit save. That person immediately gets one email with the big batch of all the listings that meet their criteria, and then after that they get only new or changed price changes or status changes. I'm going to check concierge just to finish that process for y'all. So if you click save and go to approvals, that's where you can again pick and choose. Oh, sorry, didn't. You have to call it something. Sample fur. KW Memorial. Feeling super creative today. And this will look a lot like the grid that we did earlier, right? Click the MLS number, I'm looking at the agent full. Click the clock, I'm getting to the property archive. Click the photo gallery, I'm looking at the photo gallery. Can you tell which property I have written a note on already? Number 17, what did I say? Oops, I better not send that yet. I better double check that note. Make sure I didn't say anything I shouldn't. I just said I'm going to they'll replace the carpet in July. So again, just word of caution. When you see that little thing lighten up like that, that means you've written some note. So you just want to be really sure before you send it to a client that it makes sense to that client. And then, of course, you can pick and choose. Let's say I've shown them number 2. They already don't really like that one. I'm not sending that. So these are all amazing. These are the ones really I want to send on to them. So if I click Approve Listings, off they go. And the ones I did not check will continuously come back to me as options to send to that client. Because maybe as the price goes down, it becomes more desirable. Or maybe once they really do replace that carpet, it's good. All right? Let's say I've shown them property number 2. They hate it. There's no amount of new carpet, paint, price, nothing that's going to make them want that house. See down at the bottom also I have reject. If I reject it, I never see it again as an option for Jimmy Kimmel. I would potentially see it as a suggestion to another client if coincidentally their criteria was the same or similar, right? But if I know they hate it, I can just reject it and not have to keep dealing with it. Okay? And then once you click approve, off they go. So again, that client only gets the ones you checked. I know this part's like watching paint dry to watch me check all those and uncheck all those. So approve selected, off it goes. Jimmy got an email. All right. Where do auto email searches live? Auto emails, yes. So obviously my matrix auto emails. And then by search name, you can see what the search is, who it's going to. On the far right side, see where all mine say never. Again, I don't know any of these people. I really don't know Chiquita Banana. I know y'all are shocked, but they have never clicked the link I emailed to them. They've never accessed their portal. So rude that Marlon Brando didn't do that, right? So thankfully, in this phase, they start to switch to kind of elementary school color coding. Over here, green is go and red is stop. So the green ones are going to a consumer. The red ones have stopped going to a consumer, either because they opted out or I turned it off for them. And a little more advanced elementary school color coding. See, I have one that's a colored in green circle, and the others are open green circles. You'll also notice that that's the one guy who's actually accessed his portal. I actually know Ken Martin. He literally clicked it way back in February, so I should call him and follow up on that. But once they click it, it sends them emails for the rest of their life, unless they opt out or I turn it off. The people who are never clicking and opening, it gives up on them after 180 days. So it will email, for those of you who are used to it in Tempo Infusion, right? You had your 30, 60, 90, 180, and you had to keep re-upping it. So the good news is you don't have to keep re-upping it. The bad news is it's going to email them the rest of their life unless you turn it off when they're ready to be done with it or they opt out. All right? So these, again, that have never clicked and opened and accessed it, it will only attempt that for 180 days, and then it turns it off, hence the red circle up there on mine. This guy, Ken Martin, he just keeps getting emails. Yes?
Shipley Donuts, you stopped sending. Can you restart it?
Yes. So they get an email, and in that email it says, click here to opt out. So if they opt out, I get an email saying Shipley Donut has chosen not to get anything from you ever again, is what it's saying. It doesn't really say that, but that's how it works. If they opt out, they're actually asking HAR to cease allowing you to email them. Kind of harsh, right? They may think, oh, I don't like that one house, but no, they're saying she can't email me anymore. I get an email about that, and if I feel that's incorrect, I could follow up with them, call them, say, did you really mean to do that? Because they can, or you can, call HAR, say, I want back in. We'll send them an email with a link in it to unlock that, approve receiving emails again. The other choice is I can turn it off for them. They're my buyer. We found a house. We have closed. I'll come in here and I'll check the little box to the left of the search. And I have a choice to disable. So either of those two methods turns off the notifications, and back on again is in the settings.
So, but my question there is, like, I've got somebody that we think
Correct.
about the house, it's a tenant situation, and I turned it off.
Correct.
So that they stopped getting it. Is there a semi-permanent way of putting that back on?
So that was the next thing I was saying.
Okay.
Turning it back on again is in settings. So if you click the name of the search and or the little roll out, see settings just below. Settings is concierge or no concierge, AM or PM, send it or don't send it. Okay, so all of those things are now available. See down at the bottom, enable or disable. I can just enable, pick right back up where I left off.
So at that point, if we're not sure, we could put it in concierge mode instead.
Correct, and then it emails you and you think, oh yeah, oops, I really need to tweak that criteria a little more. It's all right. So we're in the auto email section, this little rollout, and or clicking the name of the search, and then go into settings. Criteria is the property search criteria. Price, bedrooms, baths, square footage, pool, whatever. So that's criteria. So if when they first were looking, pets was a thing, now that's not a thing, I can go back into criteria and change that. Settings has to do with the auto notification settings. Criteria is property criteria. Okay. Results runs the search and gives me the latest and greatest results to their criteria. Date since gives me the results since I clicked results. Meaning, if I come into the office, 9 o'clock in the morning, I hit results and see what's up. Then I come back later at like 2. If I hit date since, it shows me what has happened since 9 that morning when I already did it, and now at 2 o'clock. Instead of everything that meets their criteria, it's just the more recent stuff that meets their criteria.
Can you change the criteria?
That was in criteria. Are you on the... Okay, settings is related to the settings of the auto notifications. Criteria is the property criteria.
Sorry.
It's all good. Market update. I don't think you'll ever use this one. Market update lets you put a date. So I could put a date range and go see what the results would have been last month. Or from last year through today, or something like that. Depending on who it is you're doing the search for. Maybe you have an investor, right, who's trying to buy a bunch of rental properties or something. That could be relevant to that kind of search. Not your typical scenario, but you might need that sometimes, but rarely. And then last but not least, delete auto email is a choice right there. And of course, because that one's disabled, I'm not seeing open in portal. I'm blanking out a moment. I can't remember my alphabet. So on the one that's active and live for Jimmy Kimmel, open in portal lets me go see his portal. Seems a little awkward, but resend welcome, of course, resends the welcome message. So now after all this time, here's what it looks like. It's going to look a lot like the other stuff we've emailed. Map on the left, list of properties on the right, little green pins for active ones, little orange pins for pending ones. On the right-hand side, see the little heart on the far right? I cannot heart it for them, but that's where they would click to do favorites or possibilities or discard. Up here at the top where it says favorites is where I was talking about their favorites and possibilities and discarded properties will live up there. My agent. Remember way back at the beginning of class, I put my picture and my bio and my link to I want to grow up and be George Strait. I don't have a profile video in there for myself, but that's what that is. Okay? If they click I frankly don't have any idea if I sent the one that I wrote the note on or not. But if they click the property address, remember they get that full view. And because I've now put them in the portal, see in the lower right there, it's got a box for notes. So that's where the notes I had written would appear. They can type and click add notes. It puts their initials in a little circle. It puts my name in a little circle, my little face, if I have my picture. So you can tell what I wrote, what they wrote. So it's somewhat interactive, but again, not by it's not alerting you by default. Okay. And lastly, on that page, I don't know that you would necessarily want to point this out all that much, but just so you're aware that they can see almost in the center of the screen right there, start new search. So they can put in some criteria, perform a search on their own. There's a little lasso right there to draw and search for property on their own. I do not get notified. It's not a reverse auto email. They can just look at stuff if they want. Okay? And it's really subtle, but can y'all see these little bitty teeny tiny little blue envelopes? That means I emailed it to them. If they find some on their own, they don't have the little blue envelope because I did not email it, they found it. Okay? Clear as mud. Hi. All right. So any questions on the portal exclamation point? Yes, ma'am. Sir, sorry. All I could see was arm. So RPR is from NAR, so that's why you have the whole company there. This is limited to only those who are members of HAR. It could technically be in other parts of the country or the world or the state, but the majority are going to be in the greater Houston area. Okay. Also down a little further in that record, there are rollouts to see what you sent, when you sent it, if they've opened it, how many were rejected, so forth. All right? So let's say I have 5 people set up on auto emails. What do I have to do to know if those 5 people have marked something as a favorite? I gotta open every single one of their portals, right? Let's open Snoopy's today and see if he did anything. I don't think that's the most efficient use of my time. I'm gonna go ahead and have an opinion. Okay? So I can see that they opened it, but that's about all from here. I typically go to contacts. So of course it's my list of contacts, but if you open contacts up there in my matrix and then contacts, see on the far right of the screen, the trash can, the little black trash can. I love how they make it dark. They hate it. They discarded it. Burn it, right? So they discard possibility, a light bulb. I don't know why a light bulb's a possibility, but there you go. A little heart's the favorite. The little cart is there so I can see what I put in their cart. Little thing for notes so I can see who wrote notes and who didn't. And see down in the numbers down here, I have some that are bold with asterisks and the majority are not. Bold with an asterisk means that is new and I have not looked at that. So I can almost immediately tell if I've got a new favorited property or a note from a client or something like that. I just have to get in the habit of going to my matrix contacts and looking, but then you can pretty much easily tell what's new and different since you looked at it last. And you would just click the number to see the thing. All right, so it's a note. See, it's a new note. And then I could read the note. Okay. So to me, that's a little more my style. Open one page, look and see if there's something I should do, rather than opening 5 pages to see if something I need to do. Yes?
On the page that you were on before it, it had the list that had never.
Uh-huh.
Can you sort that column?
Let's go see.
To show up, portal visit?
Mm-hmm. So the ones who are playing in the sandbox could be at the top. They're initially alphabetical by last name, but you can click that. Uh-huh. Thank you. Good question. All right. So we talked about how by default, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Yes, the criteria, remember, was in that little rollout. Criteria is your property criteria. Settings were your ASAP, concierge, no concierge, that kind of stuff. What they got, they already got. And then once you edit their criteria, it may potentially get rid of what they already got. Yes. Yes. I was predicting your question. Sorry to interrupt you. I was so excited to answer your question. I didn't even let her finish it. So let's say today, oh my gosh, you just have to find me a house with a pool. And then they research it and they think, oh yeah, no, that's going to cost me a fortune. Never mind. So we switch the criteria to no pool. Whether they favor to dit or no to dit or whatever, it's not on their portal anymore because it doesn't meet their criteria anymore. Unless you set up additional searches, which I think is your question or comment. Right, Kingwood or Clear Lake. Either one of those is fine. Pool, maybe no pool though, because pools are fun, but I don't know. What do you think, right? That's, okay. So you can have an unlimited number of searches. You can have an unlimited number of searches assigned to a contact. Again, investors. I don't care where it is. I just want a good deal. Set them up a search in Kingwood. Set them up a search in Midtown. Set them up a search in Clear Lake. Whatever you want, okay? And again, it could be different kinds of houses. So maybe, like she was saying earlier, they don't know yet if they're going to do a townhome or a high-rise or a single family. Set one up in each of the property types, and then single families with the pools, townhomes with the pool, rentals with the pool, whatever it is. Okay? So you would just repeat that process, go do a second search, save, pick that contact, call it something unique, concierge or not, or whatever. Okay? All make sense? So now the notifications. Again, by default, it's not alerting me about anything. Yes, ma'am. Right? They will. They will receive that welcome email because it's the first time to be welcomed to that search. So the verbiage is the same. Remember, you can edit the verbiage. So it's telling you that you cannot send them a second welcome message. Am I understanding your comment or question correctly? Right. You should be able to do that. So again, I'll sit and work with you if I have a moment after class. If you have a moment after class, rather, we'll see if we can figure out why it wouldn't be letting you. It should just be a matter of doing a search, calling it something unique, and saving with that client. Okay? You can't have two searches called the same thing, a unique name of the search, like I was saying. Yeah. Unique as in different. For each search has to be called something different. So to notify you, right? I feel like I may have said this before. It doesn't automatically notify you when they log in, when they make a note or whatever. So remember earlier, way back at the beginning of class, we're coming around full circle, right? We're back at My Matrix and then Settings. Earlier this morning, we went up into My Information to do our email signature and all that stuff. The bottom one on that list is Portal Notification Settings. And so then I can choose to get a text or an email about these things. Again, see the first one, Visits Portal. Every single solitary time they click that link and open the portal, I could get a text about it. Woohoo! Or if they favorite something, discard something, whatever. So you can go through and either choose text or email or a daily summary. So at the end of the day, I could get one email that says, these clients did these things. It's up to you, which or either or all of them that you want.
But this applies to all the contacts.
All of your auto emails. Correct. So I can't choose this kind of update for Jimmy and that kind of update for Snoopy and all that. It's all or nothing. Okay. You have to turn on the auto email to get it to the portal.
No, but even if I select one separate one, I have to email it to them in order to enter into the portal.
Part that's not part of your saved, the auto email you mean? You want to send a property not part of the auto email? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if it's not automatically putting it on the portal, you can email them instead. All right? Because everything else is so convoluted, that seems too simple. That's why. All right. So, what's the difference between a saved search and an auto email? Saved search is not auto emailing. Auto emails are automatically emailing somebody stuff, right? How many of you are using client gateway auto notifications, whatever you want to call it, in Tempo or Fusion? We imported your people and we imported your searches. We did not turn on the notifications in Matrix. So my saved searches, my searches from Tempo and Fusion that are copied into Matrix are going to be in what category? Not auto email, they're in saved searches because they're not notifying from Matrix. They're notifying from Tempo or Fusion. This part's not all that hard now, right? But you wouldn't have thought to look for them there probably. So I've gone back into my Matrix saved searches, and if you'll notice, 7,422 of mine say imported. So that lets me know that's from the other system coming into this system, and then I can turn it into an auto email if I want. So again, my dear friend Bob Newhart, I want to begin the notification process in Matrix. So I will click the rollout and or the name and go into settings, and then hiding in plain sight up there, see where it says turn into auto email. It does not turn off anything in Matrix or, Tempo or Fusion. It does not. So you have to, you're so funny. It does not turn it off in Tempo or Fusion. So you then need to go, after you finish turning this one on over here, you need to go turn that one off over there. Otherwise, they get it twice, duplicate listings and stuff. So once you click turn into auto email, you then have to pick AM, PM, ASAP, concierge or not, whatever. You also have to call it something unique. If you'll notice, it's not called that anymore because I already have something called that. I would personally, if I had an opinion, just copy that, call it that. What's my saved search called? Imported that. So it's different, right? So now I can call that. He still gets the same name that he's used to. Looks a little different, but 98.72% or something like that, the same on his end. And then you just click save at the bottom and off it goes. Then I need to go into Tempo or Fusion and disable them over there. All right? Also,
You can also change the criteria for someone in the same search.
sure,
Correct?
sure. Instead of clicking settings first, you could have clicked criteria and just double checked it and or changed it. Also, you can turn auto emails into saved searches. So right now this one is auto emailing me to let me know of what's going on in the neighborhood, and then I want to make it stop. I can just turn it back into a saved search. Same process there at the top. Okay. So again, to delete them or disable them in the auto email section, you have disable to make it stop emailing people but not get rid of the criteria and the people. Delete gets rid of it forever. As soon as I delete an auto email, it deletes everything associated with that auto email. So no more portal, none of that. Okay. Same thing in saved searches. Check the box. Obviously, there's nothing to disable, but I could delete those saved searches. Marilyn has a lot of house cleaning to do because I have 18-ish years of imported searches. Yes, sir.
So when you do delete, it's done deal. There's no going into your checkbox or anything. You're deleted.
Correct. There's no deleted folder or whatever. Your only temporary saving grace is we still have Tempo and Fusion right now. So if you delete it from Matrix, it's not deleting it from the others. I could open Tempo, find the criteria, recreate the wheel in Matrix. Whew. Come November, I don't have that choice. Okay? And also up at the top in your contacts, you can filter sort. You can do a keyword search and look for people that way. Pretty simple, basic kind of address booky stuff right there.
So
Yes?
if the contact is Stacy Jensen,
Mm-hmm.
her portal is for Stacy Jensen, and then you CC it to her spouse, and he opens the portal, does he have access to logging things too and deleting them, or is it only Stacy?
I think yes is the answer to your question, but I've not physically tried it, so I don't know. Her question was, what if Stacy Jensen, hypothetically, is the contact name who I'm sending the portal information to, and I CC, say, her spouse? Does he get to love stuff, heart stuff, or not? I don't know. I've not physically done it. I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, because whoever you include on the email you're sending should have access to that. You would have one contact, and then you would CC the second person. As long as you carbon copy the second person. Yes. You could do a husband one and a wife one, and they each get separate emails, but then it's the same thing to both people. Different time frames. All right? So any other questions on auto emails? Was that worth waiting for? Good. Thank you. At least one person said yes. I like how everybody else giggled. Sure. All right. So does anybody use the open house search in Tempo or Fusion, searching for open houses? So same but different. It's hiding. It's not as obvious. So in the search menu still, but then at the very bottom where it says more, and then at the very bottom of that page is the open house search. So it's kind of a little more layers in if you wanted to seek out open house. Sorry, go ahead. Search, and then more, and then scroll to the very bottom and you'll see open house. And you can search for public only or broker only. There's one in there with dinner and drinks. Invite me to that open house, y'all. Feed me some dinner, right? It's an option. All right, so that's pretty much all of the major stuff in searching. Do you have any other questions on search? Working with the results, maps? Y'all are so advanced right now, and or asleep. I don't know. We're almost there. So last couple of menus across the top. Public records, again, get you into realist tax, which is not changing, right? And for the foreseeable future, you'll still have realist over there. It's not tied to Tempo or Fusion. Stats. Another kind of statistical reports. Remember earlier when we ran our results at the bottom there was a button for stats specific to the properties I checked in my results. These stats reports up here are kind of broader, more general statistical reports. So original list price versus sold price, let's say, for single family homes only in 77079. And then generate that report. Ooh, there's a graph. But wait, there's more over here. You can customize it. So you can change the time frame. You can change the kind of chart or graph that it is. In style options, you can make it different colors. You can make it 3D. Whatever you do, and then click generate. Now you have same numbers, but looks different. So up here at the top in the upper left again, you can save that and be able to pull that up and print it later or do something. You can email it or print it. So I could send that to my engineer type clients who loves that kind of stuff. I don't do math, but that makes me look like I do, right? Also, worst case, you could copy it, paste it, put it in a newsletter, you know, something like that if you wanted to do that. And then the data for my engineer type brains in the room, if you click data, that's your kind of spreadsheet version with the actual numbers versus the chart. Okay, so again, I don't know that you'll do that all that often, but those reports are nice if you need that kind of thing. The presets, there's several different types. Market reports, there's mostly only broker admin type stuff in there. The months of inventory report is the only agent-centric one that you might use. Does anybody use the month of inventory report in Tempo? So you're not missing it if you hadn't already discovered it in the other months of inventory. Basically, if the buyers or sellers market, right? If the house is on the market and it stays on the market 6 to 9-ish months, that is favors the buyer, sell sooner, it favors the seller, right? So it can help you look at a certain subdivision and that type of thing and get that market months of inventory. And lastly, over here on the right upper area there, finance. Anybody use the seller net proceeds, buyer closing cost worksheets? Yup, there they are. So pros and cons, there they are. If you click on those and open it up, you have to fill in all the blanks on those forms. And it's very suspenseful, right? And the field names aren't necessarily terms that we always use on some of them. So do your best filling in those blanks. We are already looking into whether they're going to kind of finagle this or pre-fill the numbers or anything like that. I am going to fight my way to the back. This part's like herding cats. I'm going to start these CE sheets across the back. If you will be sure it goes this way.
Okay.
This one's going to be here. If you'll be sure that goes that way. Everybody's all excited to see if I'm going to hand it to them. And I just won't look at you because most of you are going to be mad at me because I'm not going to hand it to you. So if y'all will be sure that goes down this aisle or column or however you want to word that. And I'm going to just kind of throw that at you. Sorry. If you'll make sure that row there. Now, give me 2 seconds. My mom tone is going to kick in. I'm going to put my hand on my hip even. Y'all, please make sure that your friends get your CE sheets. Everybody's waiting anxiously. The whole middle of the room is mad at me right now. They don't have any sheets at all. So sign it as quickly as you can. Please pass it the direction I suggested so that we can get it across and back and forward and all that as quickly as we can. Thank you for waiting. What was your question? If you'll take one of those and pass it for me, please. I briefly mentioned speed bar. I didn't talk about that much. If you'll take one and pass those for me, please. There are a lot more people here today than they mentioned would be here today, so I may not have evals for everyone. So, sorry. We can get some copies if somebody doesn't mind going to ask somebody or running and making me a couple of copies of that. I'd be forever grateful. So, speed bar, the big white kind of blob in the center, right? So, if I get a phone call and they say, tell me all about 1234 Maple, I can just type 1234 Maple right there, and it would pull up a property address for me. I can type 77079 and find all the properties in that zip code. Okay? If you click the little question mark right there, it'll tell you some of the special abbreviations it's looking for. Everybody watch this. I'm going to freak you out a little bit. Or I might, anyway. Oops, I closed the whole thing. Lost everything I was working on. And then what? Yell. And then shortly thereafter, if you open Matrix, I know this part's not all that exciting. I'm not wowing you now by logging in again. There is a recent searches. The last 30 things you did. Whether you saved the search or didn't, whether it's an auto email or it didn't, the last 30 things you performed in the system. That is like the best, isn't it? All right? So if I just click what I did at 11:08 this morning, I jump right back to where I left off. Okay? Also across the top, if you'll notice, it says Res Act Op Pichot 450-5, all that stuff. That's my criteria. So if you can get down the vernacular that they want you to use, you can search by that. So in that speed bar, I could type res, meaning residential single family, space act, meaning active, $ 450-5. So I'm looking at single family homes that are active, 450 to 550, and other stuff. See right here where it says, oh, and other. You can't use the speed bar to tell it map coordinates, for instance, and things like that. So it's kind of a quick, short, sweet speedy search. You can also use that for MLS numbers. So you would type one number, comma, the space the next. Very important point. On the speed bar, commas apparently slow us down. So if you've got multiple MLS numbers, you need to do one number, space the next, space the next, space the next. If you're in criteria, you're using commas. One ML number, comma the next, comma the next, comma the next. All right? Again, I think that more often you're going to use the MLS number search than you would the res, space, act, space, opt, pass, all that. Okay? Excuse me.
I have a question. I'm an auto email,
Uh-huh.
and I'm trying to hit criteria, so I want to change my client's current criteria and it's not showing me the map at all. What am I doing wrong?
Criteria isn't where the map is. Map is where the map is.
How do we get to the map? Look, so in here.
Let me look at that once I end the class. Sorry, if you don't mind. Give me 2 seconds and I'll come look because I don't know right off the bat. That's weird. All right. So did you learn at least one new thing today? You learned one thing you're going to remember today. Perfect. Thank you very much for your time and patience and not getting too mad at me when I had to be a little mean. I got to keep this in order. If you have signed a CE sheet and or you do not need CE credit, you are free to go. If you have an evaluation form, please bring them up here to the front and just make a stack right here. Raise your hand if you have one of the 4 CE sheets. Raise your hand if you have one of the CE sheets. There's 2. There's 3. Good deal. Thank you. Raise your hand if you have not yet seen a CE roster. All these people are waiting anxiously for those forms to make it to the middle. So do your best. Sorry, middle section, front rows especially. Thank you all again for your time and your patience. I appreciate it. Y'all let me know if you need anything. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks a lot. See if I have extra. You're welcome.
Nobody likes
Hello? Hey guys. Hey guys, we have another class starting at 1 p.m. So if you're staying for that class, you can get lunch now and start eating because we are starting at 1. And if you're not staying for the next class, then if you could please go to Town Square or another area, that would be great. Thank you. It's for the next class.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are you pushing that specific training on the majority of your time?
Okay.
Not that was working. Oh, yeah. Oh, you already did? Filming it. So you want him to stay on right here? There won't be much. Thank you very much, Mary. Is that okay? Oh, that's fine.
But it populated a phone number, her phone number. So I wanted to be able to work that. And then we're trying to plan to back up. So seeing that working as A to Z real estate Houston.
But you're not doing that people specific to you though?
Well, and I want turnover. She'd rather shade my name than here everyone. But when I pick hers, my team members are all filled.
There's like 9 there. I don't have more than you need. Sorry.
That's okay. I can
I don't really know if many of those are going to work. Yeah. I work on my house. You know a lot. I would change it. Oh yeah. I have a lot. Other than just putting it in. Yeah, it's a lot. For her,
It is.
it's perfect. Yeah. So, yeah. And I don't know of any other sections that just add it. So it looks like you can't really edit her record in that one. Well, I've actually been using it. I was like, I'm looking after because how far do you get?
It's good to have like the stuff
Can I
like the overlays and stuff
take
like
you
that.
how long?
30 seconds. Like
30 seconds.
stuff like that.